take you from the flood. God shall remember you 2021. God shall perfect all that concerns you. The favor shall be upon you. May you receive these 3 words. And you know, the number 21, the one there is connected with the program you are doing. Do you know that? Decade, 2 decades, and we are starting with 1. 1. So 1 is a new beginning. So may your life be experienced. The new fresh oil, new beginning, new joy, new happiness, new success, new breakthrough over your life, over your household, whatever you do, may you experience right from today. May this land experience new thing. May your family experience new thing. And great is the one who has called you, and he will do it. Continue, depend, rely on God. All things that you are seeing shall pass away, but the only thing that will not pass away is our Lord Jesus Christ. I recommend Jesus to you so that you will stand firm in the test of time. 2020 is gone. Do not remember anymore. Another page has opened your life, and the page 1 is today. Tomorrow will be page 2. The next day will be page 3. God richly bless you. That's my day.
Are we enjoying the presence of God? I want to thank each and everyone for being here. Honoring the invitation from God. That is not an invitation from me. It's an invitation from God. The other day I went to visit Pastor Byron and his wife, and we were talking, and I said, I refuse to allow the noise around ministry to carry me to a point where I will have to come back and do it all over again. So I would rather do it in baby steps and get it right, for it to take too long for me to get there, than to rush and get there and then go wrong and have to come back and do it all over again. Cannot go to hardship, depression, feeling sad, brokenness, and then people are cheering us up and we can't make it right. And then the enemy took us through a lot, but we are here. Here we are today, standing in the presence of God, giving glory and honor, telling 2020, no matter what you brought, we are still here. Thank you, Jesus. Here I am, I'm still standing. Here I am, after all I've been through. I survived every toil, every snare. I'm alive, I'm alive. Here I am. There were times when I almost gave up and I cried, saying, Lord, it's too much. El Shaddai, He was there all the time. By His grace, He has kept me alive. By His grace and mercy, I'm still standing, standing. I'm standing in the presence of the Almighty with power and the testimony. I'm standing here today with nothing else to say, Lord, I thank you, thank you. Here I am, I'm still standing.
How are you?
I'm fine. My camera is not working well, so I'll be off camera, but I'm here.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Well, you're here, so that's what it
Yeah,
is.
I'm here, but it's not working properly, so
Try it, let me see. Let me see what happening. Let me see. About it is.
yeah, it's okay. I'll just be off camera tonight.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Here we are tonight. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's a good day. Amen. It's a good day. Pastor Daphne, good evening to you. How you doing?
Good evening, I'm good. Standing up
Yes.
against all odds, as they
Against
say.
all odds.
Yes. Shirley, did you send me that picture you have, that profile picture you got there?
This one?
Yeah, it's a nice one.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Very nice one. I like that one. Yeah. So yeah, we're here tonight.
By the grace of God.
All
Yes. So much going on. So much.
so many things going on, around us, and it's hard to keep up
Yes.
in the world today. So many things happening, and recently we have a lot of domestic stuff going on, a lot of foreign stuff going on. All over
The world is filled with it.
one thing that caught my eyes was a story from Grenada on sexual harassment in the police force. And I meant to talk about it for quite a while, but I always keep putting it off, not really dealing with it, but I wanted to in the sense that we as a people face it on a regular and a consistent basis, or women mostly. Yes?
Yes.
Sometimes try to push under the rug and pretend that it's not there, but it's always present. Yes? And whether we do it or not, it's happening. Yes? And quite often, most institutions don't give it its due. They walk away from it and not giving it much attention because of the people who are in charge who are looking over it. And the accusers are always going to be the victim, and the people who are accused are the people in charge in most cases. It's always the authority that is the perpetrator in most cases. Yes?
Yes.
Subordinates always become the victim. And this was expressing her concern over a period of time that she has been sexually harassed over and over again, and she's been transferred so many times away from the different stations and so on. We have other women who have been forced to have sex with their bosses and so on, and also men who have been trapped by the boss ladies, who in authority over them. Yeah, and we have to be mindful of all of those things that deals with sexual harassment. And I know, Shirley, I know you've been very vocal and very instrumental in that area of work. I admire you for those things that you've been doing, So that's why I wanted to have you in here tonight. I know you don't have much time with us. It's like half an hour. So I hope some way miraculously God extend your time.
Let's see what he will do tonight.
Because when we come to these shows, we try to get as far as possible, you know, and to bring out what's inside of us to talk about what we want to talk about, not a 15 or 2 minutes and then and some radio stations get a soundbite, you know, and never deal with the problem, discuss the in-depth problem that really what we time we can talk about the symptoms, but not really cause of the symptoms. Yeah. Root cause of what's happening. Why is there sexual harassment in the workplace? You know, and is it a sexual appetite or just someone sees someone vulnerable they could take advantage of? That probably they use that opportunity to satisfy their sexual desires on a weaker person. Yeah, vulnerable person. So tonight, before we go, ask Pastor Daphne to pray first. While you're with the rest of our guests to be here. So Pastor Daphne, could you open us?
Yes, and I will open up with a word from Isaiah chapter 23. Okay, yes, Isaiah 23 and verse 8. And it says, who had taken the counsel against Tyre, the crowning city, whose merchants are princes, whose traffickers are the honorable of the earth, the honorable. So Father God, as we see that trafficking isn't new.
Pastor Daphne is apprehended by Rogers as somebody in the end of it. Instead. Hi, Margaret. Good night.
Hello.
Oh, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Good.
I think she's unfrozen now.
Go ahead, Pastor Daphne.
Oh, yes. And Father God, as you see from the beginning of time, the city of Tyre, the town of Tyre, the area of Tyre, has been accused and the Bible says they will be punished because of the high, you know, the wickedness in high places. They were trafficking. And when you read these stories, it breaks your heart, it opens your eyes, and realize it's something that's been passed down. And it's from since the days of Adam and Eve. Because once the evil one came, remember, he tempted Eve. And from that on, things have been going downhill. So we've always been tempted in the sense that in some cases, you know, God, as we look at all of these things, Father, we bring it before your throne this evening. We know that we are in the end times and it's even harder now and more difficult to pinpoint, but it's widespread. It's as bad as any disease out there, God. And many have become and succumbed to it. Its claws, the evil of it, the wickedness of it, the dirtiness of it, and the mental baggage that women has to carry with this. And Father, today we look at the young boys with all the new organizations popping up. And we lift it all up to you because we know, God, that as time draws closer, you said it's going to be worse than the days before. It's like a woman in childbirth waiting to be birthed. So Father, so many things are going to be birthed that are not of God until you come and you pull us out of this. So this evening, God, give your daughters and your son wisdom from on high. Fill our minds, our thoughts, and our spirits with the words that you want us to say in our mouths against this evil that has been around for way long, from the beginning of time. We give you thanks and praise for what is going to be said and done. We give you thanks and praise for anything that has been brought up alongside with it as we discuss it, Lord God. And we give you thanks because we know, God, after this conversation, it's going to open a new door where people are going to be healed from the evil and the pain and the shame of being sexually abused, whether it's in the workplace or in the home, where it's happened, whether it's with a neighbor, whether it's a friend that you trust. We bring it to you, God. And we leave it in your kind hands. And we say, Lord, amen, amen, and thank you for the answers that this will bring. In Jesus' name we pray.
Yeah. Well. Pleasant good night to all the beautiful people in here, Delbert.
Mr. Tech, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize you there. My eyes were closed.
Just come on in. Lit for class. She's trying to sit in the back tonight. I know there are two partners working on some crime somewhere, you know. It's a good crime. Yes. Well, what do I do tonight? Before we go any further, I would like to have our guests introduce themselves so our audience will know who are here with us and like a background with themselves. So we'll start with Shirley Jarrett first, who I met probably about 3 years ago at the Caribbean Taylor Film Festival. I was looking at going to your profile to find a right to a picture to put up. I saw you and I in a photo shoot together. Down at the breakfast for the Caribbean Film Festival and the International Film Festival. So, Shirley Jarrett, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Okay, sure. Thank you, John. Thank you for those wonderful, nice words. Yeah, my name is Shirley Jarrett, and pretty much I'm a magazine publisher and I'm a filmmaker and what we call a serial entrepreneur. And that means I do like everything. You name it, I do it. And first of all, John, I want to thank you so much for inviting me to this platform because I like to, every opportunity that I get, I like to talk about some of the work that I've been doing for the last 20 years with women that experience gender-based violence. And so I know tonight I could not miss, after you invited me, I had to shuffle a few things around and I really could not miss just letting some of my experiences and also some work that I've been doing in the community. I mean, sexual harassment in the workplace is one of these annoying things that does not go away, but we have to keep bringing it to the forefront, keep tackling these issues because they're very serious. And like you said, times have changed now. There's just so much going on, and to be able to keep up with what's going on, but we got to keep this at the forefront of change. Like in 2019, just before COVID, I produced a documentary about gender-based violence, and within that, it contained one woman who had experienced harassment in the workplace. And so, tonight I would like to talk a little bit about what causes this, who is vulnerable, and the type of harassment that women really face. So, I'll be happy to share as we all share some of our experiences here and what we have to offer. So that's what I do pretty much. And I work with women, that's facing, like I said, gender-based violence, encourage them to be entrepreneurs, to be, self-sufficient and how they can improve their lives. And if you have a situation, you don't have to stay in that situation. You can pull yourself out of it step by step. So that's how I support women in those areas. So thank you.
Just for the record, you're married and you have 2 children, 2 lovely boys, and you're from
Yes, okay. My boys, they're grown. I have twin boys, and I'm Guyanese all the way, and has been living in Canada quite over 40 years or more. So, but I'm a Canadian, but I'm a Guyanese. So that's my story. Yes.
All right, we move on to Sister Margaret Francis. Go ahead, Margaret, and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Margaret Francis. I don't know what I can say. I have a media background for some years now. I live in the US, of course, while most of you there are in Canada. I'm south of the border. I have a media background, as I said. I currently work in healthcare, and I have had some experience in dealing with sexual harassment in the workplace. And yes, it's very pervasive. And we have to, and it doesn't just happen to women. I mean, granted that most of the cases involve women, but there is same gender harassment and women harassing men as well. And I have had to deal with that working in an HR capacity, on more than one occasion have had complaints filed and had to investigate those complaints, and appeared before the EEOC as well in one case. So it's something that I'm pretty much familiar with.
Great, thank you. And you also have, you can always say that you're Gradient and Trinidad together. I could take that.
Yeah, you know how that mix-up thing goes. Mix up like callaloo.
All right, I'm gonna go to Sister Tex Warren, right here, my co-host on almost all the shows and host of many shows. But she will tell that for herself. Tex, go ahead.
No, I really don't know what to say or how I fit in, but it seems as though I'm a wrong plug fit into every hole. Wheresoever you call me, that's where the Lord will establish me. So I cannot tell you what I have and what I don't have. I was schooled by the Holy Spirit. I'm anointed and called and ordained. And that's it in a nutshell. I'm a wife and I'm a mother of one given birth, but I'm a mother of more than children that I could afford and children that is older than me. I'm also a grandmother of many, many, many children. I understand now that I have grandchildren in Ukraine on Friday. So I'm a grandmother of people everywhere around the world, and that's it.
Yes.
So in a nutshell.
You know, with a Vincentian connection. Yes? Yes, that part of it. Delbert Baptiste, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I don't know. Good evening. Good evening. I don't know what to say. I'm Shantima's prodigal son. I'm a lifelong public policy junkie, and I don't know. I have a passion for wanting to see our people do well, and if there's a way for us to sort of create vehicles of empowerment. So I would think, if anything, that's my claim to fame. I love participating in this kind of conversation, and I think tonight's topic is of particular importance. But I enjoy sort of throwing in a monkey wrench in these conversations, and I intend to do that tonight.
All right. Last but not least, Pastor Daphne Gabriel, my pastor, adopted mother, and everything that goes with me. She's here for me at all times, and who I've come to trust with my life and praying mother and friend. So, Pastor Daphne, could you take the honor of introducing yourself?
Yes, Tex, you better do that for me. Well, you know what? I am Daphne Gabriel, pastor, mother, grandmother, retired employee with many areas of government, sitting on all boards right now for women, seniors, and youth, so that we can have the right people. According to the word says, the government is upon the Lord's shoulder. And at the same time, while I'm on the different programs with Gemfm, to mentor many of us, many of the loved ones I have there, the family of Gem, so that they too can get involved and put really the true hand that is needed in the basis of government. What else? I have founded 2 organizations. I blog on different platforms. I have pages of my own to bring awareness of the African Canadians, the African diasporan. I am involved in policy making. I am in many working groups where we brainstorm, we look at issues, and we come up with ideas and ways pass it around, get everybody's feedback, then we go out and we get one of those large companies to do surveys for us and see how popular is the sign so that we can bring those to the table of resolutions and table them within the framework of government. So it's a whole process, but you know what I like most about it is I am a people person. And being a people person, you fit in most places because you're there to help as you go along, even if it's a small bit, because in a dollar, there's 25 cents, there's 4 coins. There goes my internet. Yeah, my internet is pretty unstable. Minister Tex knows that, and Brother John. So, you know, I put in my quarter in most things that I'm involved in, so that we can come up with the right answers and the right platforms and the right laws for each and every one of us, the citizens of the world. And here in Canada, this is where I do most of my things. That's me.
Thank you very much, Pastor Daphne. Well, tonight I'm your yes, I'm back. Yeah, yes, I'm your host for tonight, John Kellis, the sheriff. And people talk about what's the sheriff. That's my actual name, Sheriff Kellis. You know, and I'm the owner, founder of Genesis Magazine and Gemfm, together with my late wife, Lydia. And today I have my wife with me, Jackie Reed Callis, who is very much supportive of all that I'm doing here. Came into a situation and just worked with it and make it better. Yeah. I'm the father of 2 children, Genesis and Miss Abby. I have to say Miss Abby, because there will be school for it. But I'm really happy to be here tonight to discuss this question of sexual harassment in the workplace. And many people around the world who are listening tonight and who will listen to this program later on, I hope that our discussion here tonight will help to expose and to bring to the forefront in every workplace, every church, every institution, our government and workplaces, that this sexual harassment have to be exposed for what it is. And I hope that our discussion will bring out that tonight and encourage people to come out and speak up against it. The backdrop for me doing this show tonight have been pushed by a recent article that I read in the Grenada, the New Today, on the sexual harassment within police force in Grenada. And this is not the we have it happen here in the armed forces in Canada as well. So it's something that is sort of a weave into the military and in other workplaces. It's not fixed to any one place. It's everywhere. You know. So again, tonight we're hoping to have a broad discussion and probably come with some solution how we can help prevent it and expose it. So before we go any further, I want to let Shirley Jarrett, my friend, I said before, from SNJ magazine, and we'll talk about that for us to begin to do our work in that area as well. So Shirley, could you open up by giving your 2 pence and then some on the
right. Okay, so I think we first have to look at sometimes people don't understand like definitions and maybe why this happens or who it happens to. I just want to say this kind of power and control in the workplace, primarily it comes from the men. I mean, it happens the reverse as well. Women, can be accused of harassment as well, but this mostly comes tonight. We're going to really like try to focus on the women, right? And why it happens and what it is and what these definitions are, what women should be aware of, what they should, look out for. And so we first want to look at why does it happen or who does it happen to mostly. And so we'll define sexual harassment in the workplace as an expression of power, right? A way for men to assert and dominate. Like for example, because most workplaces, the CEOs are male documented, but now it's a lot of female entrepreneurs and female bosses, but primarily when you want to like say look at the spread the wealth around or whatever, it's the men that own a lot of these companies. And usually we women are say for example, let's take a look. Sometimes they can assert those power over women that are a certain age, and sometimes it doesn't really have to do with your age alone. It's many different factors, right? Sometimes they feel as though women are not stable, or they could be the breadwinner. If they know all these things about you, it sort of like gives them more authority to do that, like to harass you. And so because they know that you're the main breadwinner, or they think that you're flirtatious, you might like wear something that they think, well, oh, why is she wearing that? Like you're not supposed to wear, you're supposed to wear anything you feel like wearing, and nobody's supposed to really harass you like that at work, right? So these are like some of the factors, all right? And sometimes the boss thinks that, okay, this job, you really need this job, and so there's nothing else you can do, so you should succumb to whatever they're doing to you and allow that to happen. But it's wrong. It's not. It's You should not have to feel that way. You go to work in a peaceful way just to do your work. You're qualified to do the job, and go home without having to feel this vulnerable, right? And so another thing to look for in the workplace, they may try to, you may be qualified for the job, but they may try to give you like a less pay, like that is a form of harassment as well, because if you're qualified for a certain job and there's a pay equity, you're supposed to be earning the same amount as the next person. Or anyway, and I think sometimes most Black women and women of color are more vulnerable to harassment in the workplace, again because of discrimination and so forth. So these are all like things that we're supposed to be like looking for. And yeah, and sometimes they go beyond your job description and they demand certain things from you that's not part of your job description, and you really feel vulnerable because, again, like I said, there's lots of single mothers and that you are the only one. You got to take care of your family, take care of your home. You really need the job, but really, as much as you need a job, no woman should have to put up with somebody harassing them at work. And so that's why we fight for different policy change, and and women should always speak up about if they feel this is happening to them in the workplace. They should really speak up, because without them speaking up that this is happening to you, nobody would know, and we would not be able to like fight for policy change, right? If you bring these things to the forefront, at every opportunity that we get, we should really be speaking up about harassment in the workplace, because it's against the law, it's wrong, and no gender should have more power over the other. And so, yeah, so these are important things we really need to be speaking about. And this is great platform, and we should be doing more of this and bringing these issues to the forefront so that women can speak out and speak up about some of the things they face in the workplace.
Great. Before I move to the next person, we talk about vulnerability and dress codes in the workplace. In most cases, most workplaces don't have a dress code. And even when they do, we find that some men feel like they are drawn to that person because of their appearance, sexual appearance. It's what they call sexual. This is sex cells, and because how a woman may dress, he may feel attracted to that person and feel you have to make that move to that person. And it doesn't have to be a boss; it could be a co-worker. When do you draw the line when it comes to a co-worker asking you out on a date, or constantly talking to you about having a relationship? And another single man asking another co-worker out on a date, or probably bringing her flowers. Is there a line that someone should not cross in that area? Because how do you bridge that gap between the sexual harassment and asking somebody out on a date in the workplace?
Is this for me or anyone on the panel?
For you. Can you?
Oh, okay. So I think it's good. They said, you meet people anywhere, right? or they said one of the rules is that never date somebody that you working in the same office or something, because it's not good, right? But it does not, even if you do, it does not give that person permission to harass you, right? You can, like I said, what the dress code is, or we know how we dress is how we dress. That doesn't really give somebody the authority to do anything like that to us. And when once they cross the line, there are boundaries, right? And once you cross that boundary, something is wrong. Once you feel that they're not supposed to say that to you or touch you inappropriately, then that's where they cross the line. Unless you give them permission, you have to give permission, for something like that. Even we have to be mindful of how we speak to people in the workplace, respect. And I think those are things that you try to gain right in the beginning, right? So whether it's a relationship, but we have to try to, when we are at our workplace, just to focus on our work and do the best job that we can do. But you can't control somebody else's feeling towards you, right? They feel how they feel, but when they're doing an injustice to you, when they're saying something inappropriate that you do not like. And you can tell them, I do not like that, don't speak to me in that manner, or don't touch me in that manner. And should they do it a second or third time, I think that's when you draw the line, because how you feel about it. So basically you set the boundaries very early, if something like that were to happen. But a woman is free to wear what she pleases to wear, but it doesn't give a male the authority to harass her. She can't control what he feels or what he thinks or what he does, but you will know when he draws the line, and then you have to speak up and say, I do not like that. If you do it again, I'm going to report you, or whatever the case, or whatever steps you need to take about it. But you have to jump on it like right away. Like, I do not like this.
I am recently, probably about 5-6 years ago, there was a case in Toronto, York University student, where that was raped, and the police said only because she dressed that way, she caused it. I don't know if you guys remember that one. And the policeman had, I think, ended up losing his job, saying that she dressed inappropriately, so she attracted that attention. So that was just that, but. Let's go vulnerability. And the vulnerability, you talk about the question of being the breadwinner in the home, and the person knows that, they use that against you. How do we, in the workplace settings, and I wanted to say that for the women who probably feel threatened and feel vulnerable before a boss like that, what would you, and anybody could answer that, what would you say to that woman, Margaret, or Shirley, Pastor Daphne, because you ladies have been in that position of authority in a sense, and be able to study that. What would you say to that woman who feel threatened and feel harassed because she, I'm vulnerable. I can't give up this job. I'm a single mother. My husband is sick, and I need that job. And this person will taking advantage. What would you say to a woman like that, going in a workplace like that every day?
I don't know. I can't speak for Canada. But I do know that in the United States, sexual harassment is illegal. All companies are required to have policies in place. And employees are also required to be trained on what sexual harassment is, what their options are if they have experienced it in any manner. Supervisors also have responsibilities where if for any reason they find out, they are required to report it as well. So if in that situation, I would pretty much tell the person to report it, because there are laws there to protect them. If you fail at the company level, certainly within the United States, you can file a complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and as well in New York. New York also has, you can file a human rights complaint as well. If so there are options for you to do, and I would definitely encourage the person to do that.
Okay, Shelley?
Yeah, I think the same laws are here. The same laws are here also. So that, there's a lot of training in that area, because more and more of these issues are coming to the forefront. Women are speaking out more. And so, we have the same thing here.
Pastor Dap.
Okay. Well, for me, I was in the age of mini skirts. Okay. Working in Canada as a young Black woman, and this is something new they're seeing. And when you look across the board at all the different places, I started off with Bell Canada, and we had different locations all over the city of Toronto as well. We had our line people, we had our director assistance areas, and we also have our administrative offices. What I found out from being there is that the men will target you, and not on telecom was part of Bell Canada at the time. So they work hand in hand with the women. So you'd find that when you go to the cafeteria, you'd find the men from Northern Telecom who have the same lunch breaks or coffee breaks as you. Everybody's there, and everybody's out there Googling Googling the girls and the different women there. But the thing is, the minute someone looks at you, you don't have to look at them with a smile. You just, and they say hello. It's not my internet is unstable, so when I stop. So you don't have to sit down and smile with them on the onset, simply because it sets a precedent. Because if you smile on Monday and they don't see you Tuesday, when you come Wednesday or Thursday, they're going to come back again and say, hey, hi, how are you doing? Suddenly you have a friend that you didn't even know that you had, and it sets a tone, because remember, our laws in Canada have, they are stringent, but they're not as stringent as we think they are. For instance, the age of consent has been dropped down 14 now. I hope you all know that.
Didn't know
It
that.
was legally passed a few years back. So a consent agreement is started. Yeah. So it's important to let the children know. The other thing I looked at in terms of that is individual. I have my personal rights. I have my human rights. I have my rights to work. I have my rights, and once you know what your rights are, you're able to sit and, and let them know in no uncertain terms. I'm sorry, are you really speaking to me? I had an incident, and I can go back to it because, I was I was going on the train at Blow and Young with
Oh, okay. I'm just going through here. Just tap into what Pastor Daphne just said.
Here comes a man from nowhere and grabbed me on the derriere. And the train stopped, and the security just, I don't know however their signals are, but the signal held him at the top. He was already up the escalator to get out at Blow and Young, and they had to stop him. And what we found out, he just came out from prison. So you don't know who is out there, even with the police. If a young girl, for instance, when they go in, they're held, we have to know what happens to them, because a lot of them are sexually abused and they haven't spoken about it. Those who go to prisons, when you think about the rates, you'll be surprised to know what takes place. And our laws are not stringent in protecting our women, in the sense that all women should know what their rights are. Am I walking in the streets? Am I allowed to be, harassed by anyone? If you take a taxi, or if you sit in a car with someone that and they drop their hand on your lap and then look at you and say, oh, it's a mistake. You pull them up right away. You don't give them a second chance to do anything like that, and you ask them to apologize. because it's going against your rights as a human for someone to infringe, and especially on your body. You know, so those are some of the areas we have to look at before we get into the meat of all of this, because it's sexual harassment is it's like a candy store.
Okay.
They co-host people into it.
Right.
When you talk to little girls or little guys, and you ask them how they meet this girl, oh, my dad says she's nice and you like her, and but what they're not teaching their sons is, yes, you might like her, but you don't touch her. You don't make any advancements to her. I was 21 years old, getting married, and I had to ride home to get my permission. So we have to keep those things.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to just tap into.
That's my take for now.
All right. I want to tap into something you said about the age limit here. Close in age exemptions. And so then, whereas the Canada Code age of consent, the age of consent sexual activity is 16 years. In some cases, the age of consent is higher. For example, when there is a relationship of trust, authority, or dependency. In other words, a person must be at least 16 years of age, or 16 years old, to be able to legally agree to sexual activity. And it goes to say here, close in age exemption. A 14 or 15-year-old can consent to sexual activity as long as the partner is less than 5 years older. Right? And there is no relationship of trust, authority, or dependency, or any other exploitation of the young person. This means that if a partner is 5 years or older than the 14 or 15-year-old, any sexual activity is a criminal offense. Wow. So
still, it lends a lot of teeth to the fact that someone would say might get involved at an older age, and then turn around and say, well, I didn't know that was the code. I thought it was. You understand? Because this the age of majority, the consent came down only a few years ago. Less than 6 years.
Right.
And they passed it so quietly, it wasn't even on the news.
I know. That's why sometimes I didn't see that one, but often, one part of my law class study, the guy says, quite often, we must go and look up for new laws in Canada. Keep yourself abreast, because sometimes just putting your garbage out on the wrong day could be an offense, Park on the wrong side of the street at a certain time in the day could be an offense, So the little thing that you don't think about could really affect you somewhere or the other, right? So back to the question of sexual harassment, go back to text. What advice would you give to, over here from Margaret, Sister Shirley, and Pastor Daphne here, text. What advice would you give to, let me say, to your younger self in a workplace, as a vulnerable person in a workplace? What would you say to a woman that is vulnerable in a workplace? Given who you are, know what you know, what advice would you give to that woman?
Okay, for me, I hear the word permission and boundaries. It's always about setting boundaries, knowing who you are, how you socialize. I mean, like I said, you can't control what another person thinks or does or feels, but you can control what you know and what you know to be right. So if something does not feel right, if you did not give somebody permission to do something, I think these are some of the things we need to be aware of. And I think platforms like this is very important, that we need to be speaking about these issues time and time again, because a lot of it is about education and awareness. Because like, for example, a young woman, or let's take a young man, because usually the young boys are behind, because we tend to pay attention, a lot more attention to our daughters and say, look out for this and look out to that. But how often do we tell our sons, you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that?
Right.
So, you know, we need, like I said, we have to start very early in the schools, you know, maybe even first grade, second grade, what is appropriate, what is not. If somebody touches you inappropriately, tell somebody, tell a parent, tell a friend. Or these days, these kids have their social media, however they want to get the information out, that this is what was done to me and it did not feel right. I don't like it. And I need to talk to somebody about it so I can find out more about it. And I think if we start with those basic things, we could probably have the next generation doing things a lot different. But for now, we got to really like put the information out there, because these are things that people did not talk about before. We did not talk about it. We bury all the feelings within ourselves and be traumatized over and over regarding it. But now we have platforms, now we have social media. We have a lot more now that we can speak out about it. And once people hear about these things and they know what's acceptable and what is not, then they'll do things a little different, or, you know, so it's all about I strongly believe in education and awareness.
Okay, Tex, how about you? What advice would you give to the younger person, the young lady, the young man? You know, what would you say to those? You're muted. You're pantomiming.
Yeah, I was pantomiming because I thought it was very important to pantomime, but now I know it's not. Sorry about that. So this sexual harassment in the workplace is a very wide topic. And some people get themselves, especially some ladies get themselves caught up. And then when they don't get their way after, they say it's sexual harassment. Some men do the same thing, vice versa. So they're using that now. Sometimes they use it as a scapegoat talk. Boundaries set at day one. And if the boundary is set for him, it should also set for her. If you have a food in bag and you know that's for dogs, the dog is going to come after it, right? So you don't tempt people and then say the word, well, we're not supposed to dress like that. A lot of people now tonight would not like me, but I want to stand on the side of a man. Men always get the backlash and they always get the worst of the stick. It have some men, they're just weak. It have some men that is very strong. So it have some women the same way. Why, if we want one thing, if a woman wear a beautiful shirt, a man now in this day and age cannot tell her, you have a wonderful shirt. He cannot say to her, oh, that shirt look beautiful on you. It look gorgeous. To her, it's sexual harassment. So a lot of people is not going to be pleased, but if you look at this, at the whole picture or the whole spectrum of things, it makes society, especially here in North America, it makes women get this right and cause a lot of men to go to jail. I sit on a program for more than 6 months and see a lot of guys coming into jail just because they say something, or your shirt, or that skirt fits you good. Until court start and the lawyer would say, let's go deeper. Then and only then that man get to be free. I'm not saying that he has the right to touch because he didn't touch. No, you don't have to touch. All you have to do is to look and look the wrong way and you get charged. Some ladies, because this is in place, they take a lot of advantage of it. And they make them, oh, you know, because I'm vulnerable, I'm a single mother, and they play the games. And I'm so tired of hearing them with the game. I'm a woman, and I know the games that we can play. We smile today, and if tomorrow we wake up on the wrong side of the bed and Tom come and say hi, you better don't say hi to me. And then that's where and the table turn. So we got to learn to respect each other as how we want them to respect us. We do the same thing. A lot of ladies, they're very biased. and they err on the side of woman right. A lot of family now is coming into Canada with different culture. And if the same husband disciplined them when they was back in the country, do you know what? Now they come to Canada, they have more power than him. I see this thing play off all the time. And that is so wrong. And then the man come now and they put him in jail without teaching him, well, this is this and this is that. She hear from a neighbor, the neighbor say, call the police. She called the police. And you see it on Facebook. You see it on Instagram all the time. Like the lady will throw herself on the ground and she will cry out and the police come and he arrest her. Do you know in Canada here, we have a lot of shelters for men, and men is scared to report abuse themselves. A lot of men sit in this country here and the police will come and the woman will say, he hit me. They won't ask him nothing. They'll take him. Let him do the same thing and call the police. And then the police is going to say, are you kidding me? You mean you let your wife, you let that little lady rule you?
I want to, I know you said.
Can I just respond?
Can I just respond
here?
I would love
it.
Yeah. You know, Tex, I don't doubt that there are situations where that is exploited. But that doesn't happen in the majority of cases. Secondly, if somebody tells you your shirt, they like your shirt and you don't like it, your responsibility, it becomes harassment only if you have indicated to that person that you do not welcome that attention and the person chooses not to respect your telling them that you don't welcome it. So there's certain criteria that you must meet. A woman has the right to say no at any point that she wants to say no, and you are supposed to stop. She is not a piece of property that you can do with what you well want whenever you want. I don't care who it is. So to sit and say, well, you know, today it was okay, but tomorrow it wasn't okay, or it was okay today, but tomorrow, you have the right to withdraw your consent. And that's a God-given right, to withdraw your consent at any point that you want to withdraw that consent. And that goes both ways for both people. So I think we have to be very careful when we're making these comments about, oh, well, you know, you said this and you do that. No. You're not a piece of property to be just used at will at all. Not at all.
You know, Margaret, I want to say something. Hold on there. Margaret, something that happened, I watched a docudrama coming from England. This lady was she was an advisor to the minister, and she and he have been having a relationship for over 6 months. Yes, working off with her, but then one night after 9 or something, he forwarded something in the office, she forwarded something in the office, and both them met up again and took the elevator. And in that elevator, they ended up reconnecting, having an affair. The same way they normally would have sex and carry on in the elevator. She started okay with him. And what you're saying there, Mark, is so true. He went back into the same mood and she said, nope, not here. Now, the lawyer is saying not here, does it mean stop? Or does it mean not here? No, because it might be seen, right? So the question was, stop has to mean stop, don't do it, or don't do it here, no, people are going to see us, you know? So that was the thin line. But it's something that she said that she's still in love with him. Even after he broke off, she's still hoping that night would have been a reconnection night, but she was just scared people would have seen her. So she because whatever happened later on, it was seen and get to know that she's having an affair with the minister, and then she reported as a rape case. But what you say, Margaret, is so true that no means no. Yes, and none of us would like to have our daughters, our sister, our wives in that situation where someone could just walk up to them and continually harassing them for how they look, and they say, look, I doesn't like it. You have to stop. Yeah, you have to stop. Doesn't like it. They see it as harassment, and you just can't continue doing it. Right? All right. So, Delbert, you've been there quietly listening. I know you have a daughter. Yes. What the whole question of sexual harassment, and what is your take on the whole sexual harassment? Because one of the things that I know probably you have probably read the story. I don't know if you read it in the, and I want to go back to Margaret and that too, because from a Ghanaian context, with the police force and what's going on there. I don't know if you read it today, Margaret. And that,
I didn't read the story, but I saw the headline, but I didn't read the story.
So that Grenada story is that we have to accept that those kind of harassment happens in these kind of paramilitary organizations worldwide. And while it's not an excuse, but I think in Grenada, the problem, listen, I just returned from Grenada less than 48 hours ago, 72 hours actually. And you can sort of place blame on that and the breakdown in leadership in the country. So much of what happens there with the people who seek to take advantage of it, because I don't know that we are known for that. It is people who feel that they're empowered politically, their closeness to the center of political power in Grenada, that sort of feel that they can get away with this kind of things. But listen, I was raised by a strong woman, okay? I'm the father of an only child who is a girl. So I live with the sort of training and upbringing that I got from my mom, and the fear that I have for my daughter, who is very aggressive. And but earlier today on the show this morning, I talked about one of my Form 5 English teacher, Miss Joan Ferrara, who, in addition to being an excellent language teacher, she paid particular attention to us as young men and began to sort of instill in us certain values, because you can hear it from your mom when you hear it from your teacher, who at that time was well-traveled, had returned from the United States studying, I think, for about 6 years. It definitely has an impression on you. And what she had done was to identify a number of us who she thought would be leaders, future leaders, and began to instill in us some values in terms of how we deal with people, and in particular for us as young men, how we dealt with our female companions in the school. And that lesson has stayed with me. Now, I have almost always worked in a supervisory position. So I've had those corporate training on sexual harassment and those HR training and so forth. And I'm generally, given my background, given the way I was produced, I would say, by my parents, I'm very mindful of not crossing the line myself. Now, I have dated in the workplace, and when sexual harassment sort of became the big thing following the 1992, 91, I think, 91 Supreme Court nomination, I had to sort of re-examine myself, and to figure out whether or not there were times when I did cross the line. And I concluded that that may have happened, and that I had to sort of make adjustments in probably the tone that I use, and probably whether I was needlessly aggressive towards someone, and all this. So I have made those corrections. But my closest association with sexual harassment was actually the reverse. In 1998, I was working for a well-known company, as I was hired as a district manager in training. And soon after becoming a district manager, as you go through that period, I am someone who thought I was not deserving of the job, who was a white gentleman, co-opted with one of the assistants in the district, who was a Black woman, to set me up.
Mm.
And I did not immediately sort of realize what it was, because I had no sort of intention or feelings toward the person. But from time to time, she would make jokes with me, and I would return the favor, not knowing that at that time a sort of file was being compiled on me. And finally, I got summoned to the home office in Massachusetts, where the company is headquartered. And without any real investigation, I was told that they sort of demanded my resignation. And knowing that I was innocent, knowing that I had not done anything, I fought back. And I remember telling the VP that, listen, in my Rolodex, I have a few really good friends whose name end with Esquire. So see you in court. And I think because I was so vehement in my denial, they began to say, hey, let's take a deeper look at that. So companies can't overreact, because they had made a decision to terminate me from what was then a very lucrative position for me, without a real investigation. They're just taking two other people's side. And I fought back and brought in an attorney friend of mine who immediately sent out a letter and then demanded a full investigation. And the investigation turned out that I was correct. I was right. The interesting thing is that neither the employee who was used or the gentleman who set up to target me because he felt that I was not deserving of the position because I was Black, that was his only thing, it turned out, were never disciplined, and they were not fired, and they were allowed to keep their jobs. And so, you know, having been wrongfully accused and been on the termination block, and here you had an investigation that proved that what I suspected turned out to be true, and they were not punished. So I take a very sort of nuanced approach to it in the workplace. We spend 8, sometimes 10, sometimes 12 hours with people of the opposite sex, and in this era, people of similar sex, because we also have that kind of dating in the workplace. So my question is, how do we navigate those things? How do we and I agree with Margaret that, you know, a woman has the right to say no at any point in time. I mean, I think that goes without saying. But when you have these sort of false accusations, when you have these sort of made up accusations, and they're generally very high profile, I'm not including myself in that, they tend to set back the movement. And I am particularly concerned with something that Shelley said earlier on, when she said that women have a right to dress as they wish. What does that really mean? Can she come to the corporate office in a bathing suit because the company does not have a policy? Can she show up in thongs and thigh highs and fishnet stockings with her bra? What does that really mean? Let's delve a little more into that, because I think
I don't think there's anything to delve into in that. I think in her statement in saying that, meaning that you have the right to dress the way you want, it does not give a man the right to grab you or abuse you simply because of what you wore. I think everybody understands that you will dress appropriately for the given circumstances. You do
No,
not
that's
have to
not true.
dress
That's
to
not
please
true
a
at
man.
all.
You
That's
don't.
not true at
The
all.
full stop is
Okay.
that, but you do not have to dress to please a man. End of the
No,
story.
no. Listen, I'm not saying to dress to please anybody. But when you say you
Okay.
can dress any way you wishes, what does that mean?
Okay.
What does it mean?
Let me
I have to
explain.
talk.
Okay, first of all,
hand was up.
sorry.
Yeah, I think Shelly was going to respond.
Yeah, sorry. First of all, we are talking about harassment in the workplace. Let's environment. Okay, we're not going to be wearing thongs and that in a workplace. So let's put some context in here.
Well, you should have put context in your statement.
Okay, let's deal with it. Say, for example, okay, we have a work code, or some workplaces don't have work codes. You can wear jeans or t-shirts, whatever, right?
Yes.
So
Pastor
that's
Daphne,
what I was, because I'm focusing on the workplace. You
Yes.
go to work to focus on your job, to do your job. So I am talking about that.
Yes.
I'm not talking about anywhere else, right? Other things that you can wear thongs and fishnet stockings other places and still be sexually harassed, but we were focusing in the workplace. So if a woman wears a mini skirt, like Daphne said, earlier days she wore her mini skirt, and that she's supposed to go to work in her mini skirts once it's okay with the dress code at work, and do her work in peace without a man whistling at her and trying to get her attention. That's what I'm talking about, right? So a woman can wear whatever she wants, even if she wears a tight skirt or a tight top or whatever. Once it's within the code at work, it's perfectly fine. It does not give the opposite sex the authority to say what he wants or does what he wants with her. So just want to put that in context, right? And like I said before,
unfortunately, you did not, because you keep repeating that she can wear anything that she wants. So you can't.
But I said if she wears a mini skirt or a short dress, that is anything she wants, whether it's a skirt or a dress or slacks or whatever she chooses to wear. That's what I'm talking. That's what I'm focusing on.
I just think we have to be really careful about how we qualify these things.
But I think
we're talking about the workplace.
Yes,
I am talking about the workplace, and in my lifetime,
Daphne has been trying to make a point.
I have not seen anybody wearing thongs and all that to work, so I don't know. And again, even if she decides to wear that, even if she let's say, even if she decides to wear that, it does not give the opposite sex the authority and the power to harass her.
I think that Pastor Daphne has been trying to get in here.
It's actually,
and it's not only clothing. It's not only clothing. Keep that in mind.
Yes, Pastor Daphne.
My dear Sister Shelley, there is an unwritten dress code everywhere. It's a global thing. Under our human rights, when you go under human rights, and I'm an accredited human rights consultant and a diplomatic etiquette protocol consultant, meaning our dress codes is important. You're not going to the office to convey something other than I am here to work, do the job, and get paid. Because there is a place and a time to wear every type of clothing. And that protocol is universal. It does not matter where in the world you are. You cannot work in a diplomatic position and wear a 6-inch heel. If you notice, people come with heels 2.5, from 2 to 3 inches at max, because there's a certain statement that goes with it universally. we have to be really careful when we talk about. I wear jeans on the days on a Friday if I'm not working the next day. I wear a t-shirt, but it's appropriate.
Right.
We cannot let our morals and values down just because we say we can dress anyhow. That is displacing what a woman is. This is why women have been mistaken for the wrong identity in terms of what they are wearing. So when I wore my mini skirts, they were not above, they were under my bum, just between my knee and my thigh, okay? And it was appropriate, it was above, it's about an inch and a half above my knee. But at the same time, when I look in the mirror, I want to be respected because I was growing up with a lot of morals, values, and scruples. And if I wear a pair of jeans, I am not going to wear jeans that's going to be cut up and chopped up or whatever the case may be, and it will be showing my underwear and stuff like that. No, it is not appropriate wear to be working because you have men there who you don't know everybody's temperaments, and you're setting off firewood and fire all around. So we have to be very careful in terms of how we are being protectors of the values and morals of our women, as well as protecting the fact that men are sensitive to women. This is why Adam got himself a helmet. And on that note, Brother John, could you excuse me? I have someone on the deathbed in a hospital in Toronto, and she needs purse. She's in ICU. I'm going to come back on as soon as I can, but I will jump in there, and I want to talk about perpetrators and also the baiting as Brother Dead Corporations, and I know what baiting is all about, and I know where he was coming from. It's a burden of proof question.
Okay, when you come. I want to just come back on and text come back on here. I know Delbert was making the point about dress codes and being specific with the dress code. I want to say this because I don't expect a woman to go to work with a bathing suit. Period. I didn't know when the right man will show up to work. She wouldn't just show up with a bra at work. That would be out of her mind to be doing that, right? So when we talk about dress code, I think it's within the context of semi-formal dressing and professional how in the workplace. And that being said, nobody has the right to sexually harass a woman because of that. Now, having said that, I have had, for whatever reason, this lady at work was on making the advances to me, and I had to speak to her supervisor and my supervisor about her, and what she was doing and stuff like that. And that had to be dealt with in a very specific way. It happens on both sides, but if we're not careful, we could be enticed by certain actions of women, and they do it, as it happened to me. So, but because of my level of consciousness about those things, I have more to lose than having a sexual pleasure for a moment. Yes, so I'm very aware of those kind of attitudes and behaviors by certain women. And men do. I see men make certain gestures at work to certain women, you know, and stuff like that. On the street, on the bus, you see it happening all the time. But we have to be very mindful that even with, I have a 19-year-old daughter, yes, and I'm very mindful of her, how she dress and how she behave on the street, because she have to represent us, the family, well. And doesn't mean that if she put on a short skirt on the street, someone just pull at her because she dresses a short skirt. No, it shouldn't happen. She's going to be free to walk around and not having harassed because of how she dress. And people do see people and they say hi to them, and they see somebody attractive, they'll make advances. And that is okay. They could make advances, but once they don't become violent and become really intrusive in the person's space. Yes? Shirley.
John, I just we could be fully dressed in our coats and scarves and hats, and you could still be sexually harassed. I want to sort of make that very clear.
That is said that
we have to make conscious decisions in our minds. What are boundaries, set boundaries, what is appropriate, what is not.
Right.
Most of the times, like Tex said, yes, there are women that say things that is not true for whatever reason. And, we know about all those things, but the majority of the time, it's the men exercising their power and control. And that's what the problem really is. That's been the problem from years and years and centuries ago. We're trying to break this down through education and awareness. Everybody can blame everybody for all kinds of things, but that doesn't solve the problem. We have a new generation now. You see how the kids dress now. Like, we are from the Caribbean, or we were taught a certain way how to dress and this and that. And men still would whistle at you when you walk in the street, which is very annoying, to be honest. We know that we don't like it. And the more you show that you don't like it, is the more they do it. So it's their behavior, not ours.
But
right? when we don't pay them any mind, they should get it that we don't like it, but that's when they do it more.
But I found out.
I want to respond to that somewhat, because I think the problem is that these things are not just as black and white. I mean, and exactly. I don't want to get into this thing and say, well, a guy can't. I mean, because we kind of like, sometimes I think that we in trying to solve one problem, we drift to the other extreme of not wanting to do something, right? I think a woman should be quite sensitive, or is quite sensitive, to determine whether or not she likes an attention from a particular guy. All right? Flirting should be allowed if people consent to flirting, right? So sit and say, when you say we don't like it, some women appreciate it. And if some women like it, they should be allowed to have it. So if they're walking down the street and a guy whistle them or say, whoa, you look good, and she feels good about it, fine. If she doesn't like it, she should make it quite clear that she doesn't like it. And women are quite capable of stating when they don't like something, and he should respect that. The point harassment begins at the point where you indicate to somebody that this is unwelcomed and you do not want it, and they should stop. And when they don't stop, that's where you have harassment coming into play.
Right.
Totally agree.
Very good. I want to bring some images up for you guys to see. Different type of dress codes for work. All right. I'm gonna put it out here. 5 levels of business attire. Okay. Here it goes. And let me put this over here so those in the live could see it. Here, I put it up here. 5 levels. Okay, let me get myself all the way. Yeah, so you can see. Let me take myself up this. My background here. Or is it? Let me move myself so you can see the visual better when it comes. Okay. All right. So it's 5 levels of business attire. All right. Professional, right, at the workplace. So that is one. Yes. So this is here, and they have the baseline casual. They call this the first one. Baseline casual, and that's what it is. Okay. Yeah. So they have this nice T-shirt or casual collar. Second one, the mainstream casual. Here it is, mainstream casual. That's another, that's number 4 or 5. Yeah. They have executive casual. Executive casual. Here it is. Yeah. And you have traditional business attire. And yeah, that is traditional business attire. Nobody move them too fast. Next is boardroom attire. So the other one is number one. Start from top down. That's the boardroom attire. So of the five, that is how it should be worn in the workplace, according to the Margaret. You want to say something?
Yeah. I was just going to say, I think if you're going to talk about workplace wear, I think you also need to take into consideration that may be for a particular part of the world. So that may be a Western construct. That doesn't necessarily apply in other parts of the world, because that's just not part of their particular culture and the way that they dress. So I think you must take into consideration the culture. You can't simply sit and say, well, this is this and this is that. This may apply to Canada, or it may apply to the United States. It may not necessarily apply to somewhere else where that's just not their code and standard of dress.
Yeah. Well, I mean, given the North American construct of how we function and how we dress, I mean, an Israeli woman or probably an Arab woman might dress differently for her workplace, right? And that might be how she dressed. And that might be well accepted. We have to be able to accommodate people, but not nakedness. You know what I'm saying? But I think the whole construct of dressing appropriately for work is what this diagram intend to show, and not the bathing suit that Delbert was alluding to here with the tongue and let it stocking kind of mentality, how they dress it. So I think that was,
but I think as Shelley pointed out, sexual harassment is not a function of how one's dress to go to work. It is a function of power and a function of patriarchy. That's what it is.
Exactly.
That's basically what it is. So I think we need to have that and be very clear. And it could be any number of things. I mean, Delbert talked about his situation where he was innocently making jokes to people. Well, yes. Sexual harassment can include jokes. Sexual harassment can include putting up a poster that may be sexual in nature that someone finds offensive. So it's not simply it's not simply that. There are any number of things that can be called into play. Often the thing that always comes back is, did you indicate that this was unwanted, and make sure not so that the person totally understands. There should be no doubt in the person's mind that you do not welcome this type of behavior. Now, in Delbert's case too, what was also wrong is that if this woman had reported that he had harassed her, what should have happened is the company should have done an investigation that would have interviewed her, interviewed him, and all of that stuff, and documented that is what is supposed to happen. That obviously did not happen in his case. So therefore, there were problems with that.
Mm-hmm. I want to go back to Shirley for a bit here. Shirley, when we talk about power, all right, and both women and men have, in very, very different disciplines, have power over somebody else. The man who may be victimized sexually, how do we ask a man, who probably may be sexually harassed but afraid to talk about it on his job? What would you say to that man? As we give advice to him to speak up, what would we say to a man who finds himself in that situation where he actually end up having a relationship, having an affair with that woman who power over him, and he tried to cut it off, what she couldn't do to him? What do you say to that man?
Okay, so sorry, just to get you clear, you said it's the man who was experiencing the harassment?
Yes.
Okay. I think to look at this from a different perspective, men sometimes don't talk about things, and we know that these things happen to men as well, but it's going to be harder for a man to talk about it. He might more show out anger. He might deal with a lot of anger towards people or towards women or somebody close to him. And then you have to like dig real deep to find out what is really behind this behavior, especially if you know he's not normally somebody like that. You would get more out of a quicker things out of a woman than you would get from a man. So it's really harder. I've not done, I did maybe a few years working with men that face abuse and stuff, but I didn't stay in the field that long with men. But from what I know, it's very hard for them to talk about it. They would, have lose their self-esteem, and they wouldn't feel very confident around women and things like that. So it's a little, I can't speak much on men because most of my work that I've done was with women, but from what I know is that it's harder for it to come out of them. They just have more behavioral problems and behave like really weird until they go deep into therapy, and then the therapist might pull it out of them that this had happened to them, and then they might talk, well, this happened to me when I was 5 or 6 or whatever age it is, right? But in most cases, this power dynamic comes from a man doing to a woman, because these are things that either he's seen, learned behavior, or something like that, or feel he has this power, especially from a financial perspective. It's usually a man that's dominating a woman in that area. So yeah, but men do go through it too, I must say,
Right.
I think my friend Del here would agree with me, because I saw him shaking his head at least. I'm not that biased, okay? I'm not that biased. I speak, from what I know and from my experience. And I like to be honest with whatever I say. You may not agree with everything I say, and you don't have to, because we all have our own opinion, but I'm speaking from experience. I've been doing this over 20 years, and,
Yes.
Well, I don't want to go on people's opinion. I want to go on what the data says. The data never lies, But that last scenario that you painted there is very evident in many men's lives, right? I had a friend who went through something very similar, actually 2 friends, and in one case he ended up destroying his marriage. What happened is that he felt inadequate at home. And it created distance between him and his wife, and pretty much led to the destruction of his marriage. The interesting thing about it is that because as men we are afraid to sometimes admit our true feelings or vulnerabilities, he allowed it. He never spoke up. There was a happy ending, because after 5 years of divorce, they realized that they really were meant to be together, and he was able, with help from a few of his friends, to sort of begin to communicate that with his wife, and then he was able to, open up himself, and they remarried. So, but to this day, he talks about how inadequate he felt as a man going home, where he was being harassed by his supervisor, and he could not. He didn't feel that he was in a position to perform his husbandly duties. And I'm not just talking about in the bedroom. I'm talking about just everything, because sometimes we narrow it down just to that. But to be a good husband takes a lot more than that, And he just felt totally inadequate. And his wife, his then and now current wife, believed that he was having an affair, when the exact opposite was true. So one of the things yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say, it just comes down to how we socialize boys and girls.
Yes.
And it all comes down to corporate culture and stuff like that. companies need to make sure that when they have a policy, you need to advocate for those things, that those policies don't simply apply to women, but they apply to all employees, so that every single employee knows that he or she, whenever something like this happens, that they are going to find some measure of recourse, that there's somewhere that they can report to. And those things, that they know the clear line of reporting, what should be done, where they should go. And if they, and if you're reporting to the supervisor and the supervisor is not doing anything, then what's the next step? And good companies have good policies that they ensure that employees know of. They have telephone lines that employees can call and report things without having to go through a supervisor. Good corporate citizens will also hold supervisors accountable for reporting those things. So you can't simply say, well, he said something or she said something and you didn't know or you didn't do. As a supervisor, I have written policies on those things where I have made supervisors responsible. So you can't, as an employee, come to me as a supervisor and say, well, such and such person said this to me, or I feel harassed, and I just let it pass. No. I'm going to have that conversation and I'm going to open that investigation. And I expect every single supervisor to do the same thing, whether that employee is reporting to you directly or indirectly, because you have an obligation where even if you witnessed it, do you have the obligation to report it?
Right. But Margaret, what happens? I remember years ago, I worked for a company that had excellent HR policies governing almost every aspect of our lives. But the company hired really crappy people. So, I remember once telling one of the VP, that the policies weren't worth anything because the people who were hired to either enforce, implement, or sort of mandate those policies had no sort of moral center, everything about the company was the bottom line. So it was like these policies were put in place in case somebody does something. Well, we have these policies in place. Here is the manual. Here is the company this. But the people who were there, it was the wild west, and how do you handle that situation?
I agree with you, but I think the employment environment then and the employment environment today are two different things. I think whereas a lot of companies would have been able to get away with that years ago when you were in that situation, I'm not sure they would be able to get away with that today. The other thing is that, as I mentioned earlier too, in the US, if you figure that your company has not responded to you appropriately, then you can take that outside. You can file a complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and that I think you have up to 3 years or something like that to do so. New York and New York City in particular, New York has its own human rights laws that you can file under as a state. New York City also has its own set of laws that you can also complain. So you have at least 3 sources. For example, if you live in New York and you figure that you didn't get the kind of response that you wanted from your company, you can step outside and you can file those complaints. And then what they in turn will do is launch their own investigation, which a company really doesn't want, because they would want to know whether or not you knew this, they would want to see all your records and everything else, so, and that could result in fines. It could result in them mandating you to do training. They're just all this, it becomes very complicated after that. So
I remember reading an article when the Me Too movement started. I think it was in Vanity Fair. It could have been Rolling Stones also, where this writer suggested that the Me Too movement was going to go too far. And there was going to be a backlash. How does that fit into what we're talking about? Because it seemed to have picked up a lot of steam, and now it just died like this slow, miserable.
Yeah, I think like with everything else, when something happens, when something really bad happens, it forces kind of like that examination, and then it sort of like dies down. I mean, similarly like with George Floyd. So when George Floyd happened, you had like this whole national examination, right? But kind of like now, look, you had this kid that got shot where in Minnesota, wherever the other day. I mean, has there been any noise about this to talk about?
Yeah.
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 So it's kind of like that. You have
and
this
that
cycle.
that one was even more egregious.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've had several others of those, yeah. It's just that it becomes just a passing note at the end of the newscast, basically. No, but back 2 years ago, forget about it. Everybody was up in arms all over the world, and everybody was going on, right? Because it was fresh in the air. So I think it's probably going through that kind of phase until the next big one bursts again, and then you'll probably see that kind of like peak with everybody talking about it and beating their chest and all these stuff. And then, it would happen again. But I think too, like with every movie, you would always have your extremes, but so you can't discount extremes because that's just the nature of people. But I think the extremes are far, far fewer than what you'll find in the middle.
Yeah.
I want to.
I think it's all our responsibility to continue to advocate for change. I mean, it's a continuous work. It's not something that starts and stops or it dies down and something else comes up. There's always going to be things coming up. There's always going to be issues coming up in society, but we advocates have to continue to advocate for change. I mean, I just wanted to bring, like, I don't know if you recall 30 years ago with this Anita Hale and Clarence Thomas, that was like 30 years ago. The kind of knowledge and policy change and that we have now, we did not have it back then, right? And that was a big thing. I was just learning a lot at that time. This happened years ago. I mean, look at that. He was still appointed to the Supreme Court, right? And a few other women came forward as well, I have to say, accused them, allegedly, I don't know, but they accused them of the same thing, like harassment, like sexual harassment and so forth. So that power dynamic is still there. I mean, look today, it's just recently the Canadian Army. That's big with all the policies we have, and you would expect the best policies in the Army, and it was happening. I mean, one of the generals even got one of the women pregnant. She had a child or 2 kids for him. And nothing happened. He got a slap on the wrist. All he got is a discharge. Instead of having a criminal, act against him, he got a discharge. So that's like a slap in the face. So we have to continue to advocate. I'm very strong for that. Awareness and education. We can't give up, because this would continue to happen.
You think after somebody would have had 2 children, that was still sexual harassment?
It started off. I don't know all the issues. It started off as harassment. She didn't get
a breakdown in professional conduct.
These women were not able to get like promotion. It's just power and control. Like the Army, I was shocked, but anytime there is men and women congregate together, I mean, things happen. I mean, there were quite a few women that came out and said they were harassed by their bosses and the general.
Yeah, and that happens a lot. And that's a place. In those organizations, those paramilitary and military organizations. I don't know how we're going to think it, but I mean, it's almost second nature. I don't know why men feel, because there's so much maybe testosterone in the organization, that they feel that they have a right to harass. I always find great contradiction in that, because when you look at the NFL, right, one of the most testosterone-driven organization in the world, when the guys score a touchdown, especially if it's a winning touchdown, they get down on their knees and they thank, mom and God, right? I never seen anyone thank dad. I never seen anyone say, thank you, dad. It's always mom. So here you have this, what happens as men, we so cherish our moms, right? We're so protective of our own sisters, whether they are older or younger than us. But yet still, when it's another woman, we feel that we have a right to. I've never been able to understand that contradiction.
Well, again, it comes to the question of power over other person, vulnerable.
And most of it is learned behavior.
Yes.
And what is learned can be unlearned. And we have to start from the kids are very young, both our boys and girls. We have to train our girls to tell when something doesn't feel right, and we have to train our boys to respect women and know boundaries and abide by boundaries.
Yes. One of the things that normally you have a sunset clause and certain crimes and so, but in the case of sexual harassment, the sunset clause and anything that it could be 30 years later, 20 years later, sexual harassment is sexual harassment. You see other hockey coaches 20, 40 years later being charged for sexual harassment of young boys and stuff like that. I want to ask you something, Shirley, because of your 20 years of experience working in that field. What is the ratio of men and women from, let's say, from the church organization that you come across who have been sexually abused, sexually harassed from a church point of view? Have you come across much of that, or just the regular corporate?
Well, we barely have overall statistics. 1 in 6 women are sexually abused, like daily, and the statistics are, as much as we have so much education and awareness, it's even probably 1 in 3 now. It's pretty bad. Like in high school, these girls go through a lot in high school. So I think it's the same in all the churches. I mean, even now these days the churches are the statistics are quite high.
We have a situation.
The statistics for churches were always high. It's just that people just sat there and they said absolutely nothing, because there's this notion that one should not speak out against religious people and what they do. So they carried on with all their nonsense. And it's not simply, I mean, I know everybody look at the Roman Catholic Church. It has been rampant across all churches. You have perverted leaders in all of these churches that have taken advantage of young girls and young boys.
Young boys, yeah.
I want to say something here, because a lot of times men who have bad sexual appetite or habits, right? I've seen many documentaries and police set up stings where pastors end up being brothers with prostitutes, yeah, and other women. They follow them and they see their actions and they expose them. Some men come to the church because it's a good place to find vulnerable women and boys. They station themselves, they become pastors, they study stuff, they start their own church, and they become part of our congregation, and they work themselves up into a place of authority and power where people get to respect them and love them, and they use that. And we say, well, he's a good brother, he speaks in tongues, the Holy Ghost Spirit, whatever that, but his objective is not what you look at him. You have an ulterior motive. There's, I think on Creflo Dollar show one time, he had interviewed a young lady who fell in love with a young man. He become a very prominent person in the church. He's singing in the choir. Everything was right. Pastor fell in love with him and got married, right? And after getting married, he moved away from that church, far away from the congregation that he came into. But he was just fishing, yeah? He did everything right. And then, boom, she was abused, physically, mentally, psychologically, everything was done. And he had 2 children somewhere else, So he just come in and just move into the fold, and people just embrace him for a new convert, a new brother. He sing well, he dance well, he do everything well, he know the Bible. And a lot of people get into that situation and they become that. And we gravitate to them because they speak well. And Paul wants about those people. So I want to say that we have to be very mindful, because not everybody that come in is really coming in for the glory and for the fulfillment of the gospel of God. They come in because that's who they are. They look in, they wolf among the sheep. Yeah? And and it happened in the church, it happened in the Pentecostal churches, it happened everywhere. And a lot of women
and John, some people go into the military and politics for those very reasons also.
Yes. I know. I told my daughter, nobody sees it without my consent. No pastor, no elder, no deacon, nobody sees without my consent. And I tell you, don't be afraid to tell me. Anybody talk to you inappropriately in church earlier, you need to tell them, let me know. Because I'm gonna go for them. And I'm gonna make joke with that. You know? You have to be very mindful. Shirley, you spend more than half an hour. Thank you.
Oh, I can't get rid of you. It's okay.
Shelley,
God's gonna bless me for that. Huh?
That's what happens on Gemfm. When you get into the conversation, you get pulled in.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
I know Shirley has. What is in store for Shirley? What is it that you have coming up? I know you've been involved in a lot of things recently. I know we met at the Caribbean Tail Film Festival. I know you have the Doctor movie coming. Any new work in the making?
Wow, we're working on a few projects. We have working on a docu-series with a gentleman. He's a fourth generation Canadian. So we want to talk about the trip from the US to Canada. So we're working on that. My documentary is screening on the 30th of April in Brampton.
Oh,
so yes, I think there's some link in my Facebook page. I hope you can attend. Oh, you haven't seen the documentary, so that's a good way to. It's at the Grace Church in Brampton.
Okay,
I'll send you the information.
I'll let text go to that because I have.
And if you can share it with your networks, that would be nice. It's on. I think it's from a brunch, afternoon brunch. Could be from 2 to 4, something like that. But that's my first live event since COVID. So, so wish me luck. I've been doing a lot of virtual, but I'm looking forward to that. And yeah.
Next to represent Gemfm at that thing. Go there and bring it live to Gemfm.
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be interviewed about the documentary. So I hope you can come out and and I get to meet you. Text. I get to meet you, and you can ask me questions. More questions.
Very dizzy right now.
Yeah.
Oh, I was sorry, Dell. I was talking Dell. Sorry, my apologies, Dell. But I'm hoping you can come out to Text. It's gonna be good. Gonna be good.
Okay, so
let's see. What else am I doing? We're just working on some projects. Yeah. Great. And on I'm extending my podcast. I'm building, rebranding my media platform. Yeah, to include podcasting, and you'll hear about it. Yeah.
Right. Margaret, I have a question for you because you've been at the outset. You talk about being in the human resource and working, seeing and having to deal with some of these cases, sexual harassment cases. What percentage of that is women to men in your dealings?
In the cases where I dealt with, they were all men to women.
Wow. So wow. So okay, let me just ask you because, and surely again there were a lot of women in that case. What do you do with the men that have been found guilty after the investigation happened to be inappropriate? What are some of the steps? What's the disciplinary measure that was taken for the men? What was set up in place to avoid that again recurring in the workplace?
From what I know, usually if there's an abuse situation, whether at home, domestic violence, or workplace or anything like that, once the police gets involved, if they do the trial, and I think there may be some services provided for men. I probably not as much as it's for the women, but I think there are some anger management programs and different programs like that available. Probably after being incarcerated, I don't know, you're assigned a worker, somebody that would help you to go through these things so that this does not happen again. Because usually the men do need a lot of support for, what has happened and to deal with the whole matter. But I know there's more, for now, there's more available resources and that available for women than there is for men. But yeah, it's a learning process that, if the man is willing to, usually the man is upset, angry, doesn't like, being put in jail for something like that. Because remember now, these relationships sometimes start out apart. I'm talking now just violence. Sometimes even domestic violence. These are intimate relationships that turn out to be violent for one reason or the other. And so, these men are dealt with. They don't like it at all, but everybody needs to be educated on how they can prevent that from happening. Because like I'm saying, it is learned behavior, and usually it's coming from the men, power and control over the women and the kids. And these are behaviors that they can work with their therapists to avoid these things happening.
Before I walk to Margaret, I want to ask you a question, because we hear you say that a husband could rape his wife, the sexual assault his wife. What percentage of that have you come across in your working with domestic violence and sexual harassment in the home? Shirley?
Is that a question for me? Sorry, I thought you were asking Margaret.
I'll go to Margaret, so I want to ask you.
Yeah, there is a percentage. I don't have the actual numbers here, but there is because again, boundaries. I mean, even sometimes I'll talk my own situation with my husband. Sometimes I'm not either feeling well or whatever the case may be, and I said no. I don't want to have a relation tonight or today or whatever the case may be. He has to respect that. Like, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're married or you're not. If the woman says no for whatever reason, you just respect that. And I think it that happens too, but not as much as the other sexual assault cases. But it happens, And that's a whole different topic again. Like there's so many, issues around this power and control and husband and wife and partners and
next topic.
We could go on forever with these different areas. You cut them up in different pieces. The conversations could go on forever because it's relationships, right? And like we started out, society or the world started out with relationship, a man and a woman, right? From Adam and Eve's time, it's always two, right? Like that. So, and things are gonna happen, and there's right and there's wrong.
Yep. All right. So, Margaret, I want to come back to you. You're dealing with men who have been accused, who you have to deal with because of the sexual harassment on the job. What kind of services that you probably recommended for those men so that it would not be a repeat offender in the workplace again?
Well, normally workplaces will have their policies, and it can range anywhere from a warning, depending on the level, all the way up to termination of employment. So basically, in our situation, we suspended the individuals because one of the questions that you would ask the victim during the investigation is what would they like to see happen to the individual. Right. And so we suspended people without pay. We didn't terminate anybody, but they were given, of course, they were written up as well in addition to the suspension, and they also had to undergo training. In one case at the company, the woman, she was not satisfied with the employer's response. And so she took it to the EEOC, and the company ended up having to shell out $20,000 to her in compensation.
Well,
yeah.
So the suspension come with training how to act on a job, or how to really help him rethink his behavior.
No, the training is normally, to sort of like educate them and make them more aware of what sexual harassment is, and what the company's policy is on sexual harassment.
Right.
Margaret, can somebody be harassing somebody and not know?
That's a difficult question to answer. I mean, it's possible. I mean, the only way to know is if the person complains about it, right? Now, there's this other thing. Here's the thing. At least in the US, here's the thing, right? So let's say, for example, Delbert was harassing Tex, right? But Tex decides, she doesn't, she either doesn't know or she's not going to say anything about it. But I'm a witness to it and I'm offended by it. I can be harassed as a result. There's this little funny thing, even if you were not harassing me directly, but you were actually harassing Tex.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting there and I'm seeing it and I'm offended by it. So I can report that I'm being harassed.
Because it's still creating that uncomfortable in the work.
Right. It's creating a hostile work environment. Yeah.
For
me.
Pastor Daphne, or you want to send me some statistics. One, in 2016, they have time lost, 69 years, right? In time lost in 2016, last according to the Ontario Nurse Association, 69 years of loss in healthcare. Workers miss more than 69 years. 225,000 days of work-related work causes of sexual harassment. People losing and missing their jobs and so on. 69 years of that. That is the amount of time that people have lost in doing all suspension and all this stuff like that. It costs about benefits paid out in 2016 for WSIB, paid more than $4.7 million in benefits to workplace violence, sexual harassment. That is an alarming number of sexual harassment. In most cases, work violence it's been up by 27% in the last 4 years. So that is a big problem we have, and tonight, as we hear speaking, there are women who are now heading to a shelter because of some violence in the home. And tonight, over 3,000 women will be heading to a shelter tonight. And accompanying them would be approximately 2,941 children will be heading to the shelter with the mother tonight. That's the level of the amount of trauma and violence that in a lot of homes tonight. So as we speak here again, I'm hoping that the people listening now and those who listen thereafter would take into account the neighbor, and if they see it, report it, because in the end of the day, somebody's going to be a victim. Because it is said here, every 6 days, a woman is killed in Canada. Within 24 hours of separation. And actually, last week, I'm sure you remember that, the guy who killed the girlfriend and the 2 children in Pickering, he was sentenced to like 25 years or 25 years to her. So again, for killing his spouse and the 2 children. And that is a big thing that happened here. They don't just kill the person, anybody that they go in the house and anybody they meet, they kill everybody in the house. And it's happening. And every days, a woman is killed. So that's one thing again we have to advocate strongly about. And I know that you're involved with Orange 365, and I public George Delbert into that, a mom perspective and domestic violence there. But I want to join you in that group of men. I don't recruit you, because I think Shirley has recruited me into that.
Yes.
I have
with Charmaine, yes.
I sent me some information asking me to be.
Yeah, we want to get the men talking about this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Talk more sexual harassment and violence and stuff like that. Because I'm very much, like I said, I grew up in a house, I saw the violence and stuff like that. And my sister and I was talking about on Thursday night about what we saw growing up, and the younger children haven't seen that. They see the nice side at the older age of my dad. When he was younger, in his early 20s, he was being very violent, yes, especially when you drink. So I've seen that and dare myself not to become like that, but to stop behaviors. I didn't like it then, I like it now. So
Right.
I have the medium, I have the all it is to take to ensure that the awareness for domestic violence and sexual harassment and stuff is echoed in a big way. I will use it to do that. And any way I can promote the non-violent and the anti sexual harassment, I would be more than happy to speak out against it in any form. Yes.
Yeah. We appreciate that. We appreciate that.
Margaret, can an employee who is in a subordinate position ever be involved with somebody in a supervisory position without those kind of implications?
I suppose it can happen. I think the key thing here always that they say is that, those two words they always use, you'll see coming up over and over again: unwanted and unwelcomed.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, but I think, because of that power dynamic between, you being a subordinate and a superior, people tend to discourage that kind of relationship. But I mean, it happens, and
But
this is life.
Let's take the recent incident at CNN with Jeff Zucker.
Right, but he had a relationship with this. They had a relationship, which probably would.
But she was a subservient. She was.
Yeah.
But she was also in a powerful position.
Yeah, but still, he was her boss. But
so why should because the climate became so toxic? Why these were two high-powered people in one of the largest media company in the world in a consenting relationship? Why should he have felt the pressure to resign?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't there an issue of disclosure?
Yeah.
There was an issue of disclosure.
But why should he have to resign?
He didn't disclose the
I don't
relationship.
think, he didn't resign because of the relationship. There were other issues going on.
It was not disclosed.
Yeah.
Because generally companies would not, they wouldn't want you to be kind of like in the same working space and you reporting to the other person stuff, because that creates problems. That creates problems among the team dynamics and stuff. If something happens, kind of stuff. So they generally wouldn't want it. It becomes complicated. It really becomes complicated. Imagine, you have, people may not want to say things, if one person does something, particularly if the subordinate does something, they may find it difficult to report it to the supervisor, that kind of stuff. So it could create complications. Yeah. And so you really don't want to encourage it. Or if it does happen, shift somebody else over into another department so that they're not reporting directly to whoever that person is.
And usually it doesn't end well, just like what happened to them. They both had to leave, right? So
yeah. I think there was that issue of disclosure, that it wasn't disclosed to the
So what happens though, if in their case the company policy again could we make fire both of them because they violate company policy? If they knew
and some companies, actually, that's the thing. Some companies may have policies in place that bans that kind of relationship. Isn't that? I mean, I think the military has something similar. Isn't there? There's some kind of thing with relationships.
But they repeatedly violate it.
Of course, please.
It's the human nature. Because of human nature.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, and that's the thing, you have to, there must be leeways in laws. I mean, I know people, it's hard to say. I mean, sometimes they're well-intentioned, but you're dealing with human beings inevitably, and it may not always go as you want it to go and as you plan it, and you have to make allowances for those things.
And we talk about the corporate world here, and there's always sexual harassment in the church. I know Tex will jump in here. Should there be a policy also in church for harassment, and not try to cover, but have somebody report if somebody feels harassed by a pastor or an elder in church? Should we not also have sort of policy in place and have a place you can report the pastor or the elder that sexually harass you? Because some people are traumatized, by the harassment as well.
Okay, can I speak to that? I'm gonna get into trouble here, but I'll take a chance. Okay, first of all, a lot of these churches, especially the Black churches, there's no board, there's no accountability, there's no one there reporting to. They own the church, they run everything. It's crazy. And usually some of them end up having babies with the parishioners. Like, it's just wild. Like, it's crazy. So first of all, their business model is bad. And everything they said, well, leave it to the Holy Spirit and all that kind of stuff. But
I will tell you, if that happens in church, you're literally recourse.
Or they pray for you and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't want nobody praying
so
for nobody.
Bad. It's so bad.
I'm telling you, I got a kid, and anybody harass them is a Magnum 357 that's coming.
So that's the first thing. There's no accountability.
And I don't want to kill you either, so I'm not planning to kill anybody. I'm just one body part I want damaged.
Yeah. I must say this happens a lot in the churches.
Go ahead. Hear you on that.
Thank you, to Margaret, because when I first sit here, how I understand and the forum is that women have rights and women have rights, but never give that privilege to the man. And that kind of turned me off, because I've seen too many men suffer, and because they don't talk, because before in their life they was hurt as children, they don't have that warmth like to talk. They just keep it in and they internalize it. They may walk away from their job, and you often find them hunting from job to job. But what I want to say thanks to Margaret for, because she came back and clarified it. And I know a lot of men sitting somewhere saying, oh my God, there is a woman that understands our pain. Because she came back and she said, this thing work on one level. Both man and woman must be held accountable for the behavior in a workplace. And I really want to say thank you, because I hear ladies talk already, and it just it really hit a spot inside of me. And you're the first person that I ever hear come back and conclude it and say, you know what? Both of them have to be held responsible. And I give you God for that. Thank you.
I want to say this because when we come to the church have boards. They have deacon board and elders council and stuff like that. I'm part of a church like that. However, in the last 4 years, a situation that happened in the church I go to, and the pastor was he refused to apologize to the congregation, and he moved on from his maternal home, and because of the accusation of having an affair with one of the subordinates in the office, and so on. That led to the demise of the church in one sense, the separation, people go different ways, because he probably felt that nobody should hold him accountable for anything. All right, you feel I'm the man, and I do what I want and stuff like that. And you don't need to apologize to nobody. And that's the only thing about those small churches when they have no other organization over them. All right, they can't. I'm the king of this cast. I could do what I want and stuff. There's other little thing that was done, and I probably might be the so-called black sheep in that thing, because I was the one who on the Sunday morning go up and take the mic and say, no, there's no church here today. If you don't talk, if you don't start talking, you know what I mean? They call the police for me and stuff like that. And this kind of stuff. They threatened me to take out my membership. In the end of the day, I walk out laughing because the group of us who put together a legal thing against the church, they was threatening us. They sent letters to us, and I couldn't sit around my legal mind and do not step up. You know what I mean? The last thing I did, I locked the church out. They locked us out. We have been having service in front of the church for 3 weeks. Yes, and I actually called a locksmith and changed the lock on the door. It cost $1,000. Change the lock on the door. They called the police. They are breaking the church. We had service in the morning. And we had an agreement with the police and to exchange the keys and to have a meeting. And they never did. They said they agreed to have a meeting with us, but they never did. And so then we went up in the court and had arbitration done. You know, we had certain agreement. We kept ours. They kept theirs to a certain point, and now they're asking for us to be lenient. Well, you made a bad decision, and you make a choice out of you're given 4 choices to choose one, you know, and now you get caught. And you know, for me, I believe that we have to hold our leaders accountable when they mess up. I'm not in the game of letting leaders walk away when they victimize our sisters and our mothers, our aunties, and our nephews and so on. No, sir. I am not going to play that game with you. If you're wrong, and you have to be held accountable for it. Because some people just don't know when to stop. They don't want to stop. And they feel because they're a position of authority, they could do what they want. And have people feeling sorry for them, feel, well, you know, just for a victim to the temptation of the devil. Well, you know, Jesus, if you claim to be like Jesus, he had to go through the same process and he overcame. You know, so let us not be one that say, you know, don't talk about the man of God like that. No. If the man of God is the man of God, he will continue to be the man of God. You know, and you know, they say a righteous man fall and get up 7 times. He wasn't talking about, and that's my opinion about you going around having churches where you're having sexual relationship with women every time like that. You know, it doesn't work for me. So we need to have a checks and balances. We need to have a reporting system in church where people can report a sexual crime. Because if I know about it and she go to a doctor, somebody radio. Yeah. Somebody get my feedback. So if she can complain and I know about, she talked to me about it and I didn't. Yes. So I think there should be where people can.
John, can you mute all of us to see?
Pardon me.
I think there should be a reporting system where people could report sexual harassment in the church. It does happen. It does happen. And then,
Okay, guys, I have to sign.
Shirley, yeah. We're just about to, but Pastor Daphne, your speaker is on. Yeah. All right. I think I'm still having you. Okay, I think it's better now, Pastor.
Okay, bye.
All right, Shirley. Good, nice having you again. I hope we see you in May. I think we have some.
Thanks, Shirley.
Probably May, Orange 365. I hope we'll get Deborah to come to that, to attend that, our Orange 365, men perspective and domestic violence. So Deborah, look up for that. I'll send you an invite for that too. You did Deborah.
What's the date in May?
I don't have it in my. I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, I know. I'll be up north in a couple of weeks. Yeah.
Margaret, you live in New York.
No. I live in Grenada and I work in the United States.
Yeah, and make sure you better make sure you go see Tex or else.
I know why he's coming north.
And I vacation in Canada.
I will let the world know it's a secret. I will let it out soon. Also, I'm staying quiet.
There is no secret, Tex. There is no secret. I have lots of family and friends in the greater Toronto area.
I'm suddenly choking.
Last time. You know, this time no all down, no nothing until we know that he's here. Better be. No, all of that being said, Margaret, you know, I think May month, yeah, the last thing happened in May month coming up. So I'm hoping that Brother Bud will be here and we'll be able to see him and meet Pastor Daphne. And
yes, I am coming up in May. I am coming up. I don't know. I don't have a date yet, but I will be in Toronto in May.
and
Do I buy a red dress or just a spring-looking dress?
No, spring.
Minister,
Spring.
what is
You can go with peach. You can go with a very pale green. The possibilities are endless.
Of both shoulders on. One shoulder.
My mom's favorite color was an off-white, so you can go in off-white.
I'll be the bridesmaid. Get the color.
I'm just encouraging you, Tex. I'm just
so how was the program? How I missed so much of it.
We talk about the men and what treatment and what we could do to help the men who have been accused or found guilty of the act. And Margaret had said that they are training for them, that could help them.
Yes. Yes.
And we were just talking about the church, sexual well, and I was just saying, you and I know the committee and stuff, but I was saying that we have a body that young women are meant to report sexual harassment in the church. Okay, it does happen.
But did you know that in the church that anyone who is working with the children in the church, they must have a police record?
Yes.
They must have a police check, and to work with children. Otherwise, it's a big problem.
I was nominated to a board, to a church, a school board, private school board, and I had to do my
police clearance.
And my it was flagged, and so I had to go downtown Toronto to do a police check, get a police report, and do all this stuff. And somebody my name, height and everything, had some criminal activities and thing. But the only thing that get me off was my eyes and my fingerprint.
All right.
Yeah. Yes, all of that. So they do the fingerprint and the eye scanning to make sure that I am. So I was going, why is this thing going on here? He said, you might be very innocent and you might be the culprit. We had to do the screen, you know what I mean? But then I haven't had any record. So I put my hand on the stuff, take the fingerprint and match it up, do my eyes. They have to wait outside for a couple of minutes before they finish. So they do the last eye scan. So the iris scanning and stuff like that. I was clear for takeoff. You know what I mean?
It takes a few seconds, And you see now with the 5G, you notice when you go into check anything, you see this thing circling and circling and circling. It's checking the whole world. It's a global thing now.
Yes.
And it will come back and tell you it's not you or it's you.
That is artificial intelligence now. I don't know if you guys saw it.
Yep.
Superhuman, non-human intellect.
Police officer.
They can hack the human brain now. So they could make you think, make you function a certain way by just hacking into your in their cloud. I shared with you.
Yeah, that's Harari from Israel.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Well, guess what? I would not be traveling. I would not be going anywhere. Outside.
Minister Tex.
Yeah.
Canada is big enough. Canada is big enough. You could go to BC. You could go to Alberta, Saskatchewan.
Right on the snowboard. I want to say,
Tex, you can't. It's in everything. You don't just travel. It's right where you are. They could tap into your brain. Where you're sitting.
That's true.
Doesn't go anywhere.
Can I close the windows?
Technology set up to tap into your brain with all the things about what you do, how you move. But tapping you out from your computers, your cell phone.
Yeah, but Brother John, You know, when we tap on the devices, they have fingerprints.
Yeah.
Yep.
You pick everything up.
So even if you take a picture and you say it's you and it's not you, they will tell you.
Because the iris, everything you want, and the whole facial recognition, but database.
Take it back. Okay, all right.
What happened to your phone? You have to mute everybody because your voice is going and coming.
Yeah.
Okay, Pastor Daphne, you know, we're getting the feedback from my thing.
You're fine now.
Yeah. I think it was Pastor Daphne's end. Yeah. Yeah, so I was saying that Margaret could be sitting in New York City and she take a picture on her phone and they just grab that image and they just put it over in the database. And anything Margaret do, wherever she is. You know, recently I was talking to somebody about the men's purse. Yes? And after my conversation, I get a whole lot of ads. I'm thinking like, are you kidding me? My friend, because I had this black man's purse and the zipper went. So we at work we could change zippers and couches and stuff like that, right? So then the guy, you know, he was doing something. I said, you know, you could change the zipper, or you could just sew it up a little bit, you know, and take a fork to slide the new zipper on. And he said, you could do that? I said, yes. So I said, I have mine here too. I have to do my man post. I'm going to buy a new one. I've been looking around and wish, and I see them, those expensive leather posts you see in the flea market and other stores for $40 and $60. See them wish for $19 and $15. So next thing I know, we show up, Rose will show up, a whole set of men, boss, I'm thinking like, what's wrong with these people? That's into my conversation, you know? And so my sister said she's not going to buy no smart TV. I said, well, you don't buy a smart TV on my phone. What you have?
Yeah.
One way or the other. You know, you can't escape them. They already set you up. You know, people say to turn off these settings. No, you can't turn off those settings. No, never turn off. You take a picture, it's in the, and I learned something that you cannot erase. When you say you delete something, it's not deleted.
Right there.
It's in what they call the cyber trash.
Yeah, it stays there.
The cyber trash can put up any piece of information they want 20, 40 years later, and they'll find it right there. You can hide from it. No way to hide. No way to run. It's deleted from your computer, but it's in their computer. That's what it is to it. All the information is stored. They could delete all they want and think you get away, commit a crime. You go and dig up everything on you and bring it up to you. Yeah, right. So, another thing I want to ask about before we get out of here. Question.
Just a quick question. Have anybody noticed on the television there's a light?
A light, yes.
On the television screen. No, when the movies and things going on or the news, there's just a center, right in the center, there's a light.
Yeah, because they're checking to see what type of movies you look at and the kind of mood that you're in. What makes you tick?
Really?
Okay, no problem. Great.
Maggie get very scared and comfortable enough.
For me? No. I'm not scared comfortable. I'm not scared.
In the last decade, I've become more of a radio person, so I very almost never look at TV now. And if I am, it's something silly I'm looking at on YouTube or something else. But live TV, I find absolutely, you know, at work in our employee dining room, there's about 2 or 3 TVs there, and one is always on CNN and the other on sports and what have you. And it's probably the only time I get to listen to them. And I am appalled at what CNN is carrying now for news, but I'm not a big follower, so I just, you know, I find radio and continue to read the Washington Post or whichever one a lot more interesting than TV.
Dinosaur operation there.
Know if anybody noticed it or if it's just me alone. So 2 weeks ago, it changed from this clear bulb to a red bulb.
I never know. Because
I'm gonna have to take a look at this tonight.
No, it I don't know.
I know that there's Netflix will tell you, they know what movies they watch, and they'll tell you, okay, John, might like this in the background movie you choose to watch. They come with 10 movies that know that.
It's not about Netflix or movie, just on the TV itself. There is just.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say, but I'm saying also.
And it goes like this and goes like that, just across, or it goes.
Oh, okay. No, I've never seen that on mine.
I've seen that. So,
Yeah, but it's because you have Bell.
I'll look into that.
It's because of the fiber optics.
Yeah, I'll look into that one.
The fiber optics are attached to the 5G.
Oh, well, I've been there before. This has been something that has been there before as well. I don't know how. They said a long time ago about this camera looking at you and stuff like that before.
Yeah.
I'm not. I have nothing to hide. You know, if I have to go do something, I go do it, and just don't dress naked in front of the TV. That's all.
And when I wonder,
even you.
Huh?
I would like
even when you turn off your phone, they can start you.
Oh yeah, they can still check it.
Yeah, you just have to take the battery out, and that's fine.
They're gonna put a black screen over the TV.
Well, actually, yeah, that's not a bad idea. But if you can find the thing, you just, if your TV has a camera, you can just, it's as simple as putting a piece of tape over the camera.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah. Hold on. Okay. So my last question for us tonight. When it comes to sexual harassment and sexual assaults and so on in workplace, and even sexual harassment in the community and stuff like that, and those people have been convicted of sexual crimes, the sexual data list, the sexual what do you call it again? The data list. The record.
Pedophile. Yeah.
Well, do you think is that when it comes to tracking anybody?
I didn't hear that. You dropped out.
That part of the question.
How effective is the tracking method for that they have collected on sexual offenders? How effective is the people who commit those crimes and move into neighborhoods and stuff like that? Is there any evidence of how effective that has been in terms of sexual offenders?
It is effective. Yeah, because they can track you.
Track you.
Yep. If you leave the house and you're not supposed to be down at the bottom of the steps, they can tell you where you are.
But that's if you have the bracelet. That's if you have the tracking bracelet
on the foot.
Right. Yeah. But not every one of them have. Not every offender gets a bracelet.
Exactly. And also when they take blood.
You're muted. What did you touch?
Yeah, I think Pastor Duffy, I'm mute. I think you have. I think your mic is open. What you're listening to is open. So you're getting that feedback from you. Yeah.
I mean, I don't. Oh, she's back.
Okay, sorry. No, I said that even the blood tests they take of you. For instance, you have to realize, Brother John, that all the children that were born, like, your daughter, my grandkids, the youngest ones, since all their blood tests follow them now, everywhere and anywhere. They don't need anything to tell you, because when they take that little thing on that little slit on the what you call it, the heel, it follows them. They don't have to ask you. You notice they don't ask questions with the parents anymore, because everything is there.
Yeah.
They already know who X, Y, and Z is.
Talking about that, I saw an article and I asked about this blood test, DNA stuff happening. to confirm that the father in the room is the father of the child, they asking some solicitor, should a DNA test be done at the hospital when the child is born to declare exactly who the father is. So then later on, 20 years later, you find out that this is not the child, 5 years later, you realize that's not your child. Should that be done at birth? Should DNA test be done to know who the birth father is of the child?
Oh God.
Wouldn't that be a terrible invasion of privacy?
Yeah, oh God.
Would it be better then now than later on the child get to know, like 20 years later, that's not my dad, he get to know this, not his child? And he have a blood transfusion. I think, oh, that child is my best bet, and then they do the blood work and realize that this is not my child.
That is cool, man.
Can I do it now or do it later?
Later.
Yeah, but John, also when they do that check with the blood, if there's two different men, it's the one that's closest to that bloodline that they say is the father. It may not necessarily be so.
But
so there's a detriment part of it.
Comes to couldn't get a woman pregnant, 2 different. I don't know. Margaret, help me here. You're the medical expert. You're really medical. Help us here. Is there anything that would in my science staff, I was a very avid biological student, but I don't think there is any that the two men could fuse at the same time. But
I don't know. I mean, from my basic high school, things doesn't suggest that
happens.
That they, I don't know, but I don't know. I don't know, but the thing is that we put a whole lot of confidence in DNA, but DNA can be wrong sometimes.
It can, yeah.
And actually, I was looking for it, but there's a condition where a parent could be a parent of a child, and for some reason, they're different DNAs. There's a condition, and they were at least because there's this argument that DNA can't lie, and there was a piece on that. There was a case. There's at least 1 or 2 cases here where this woman had this child. And she's telling them that it's her child, but all the test shows that it's not her child because there's no connection, no DNA thing. I forget what's the term for it. There's a term for it. I mean, so all my life I'm walking around saying, as everybody says, DNA can't lie. Until I saw that, yeah.
But what if she had a blood transfusion and she didn't know?
Doesn't matter. There's a condition where you just don't have it. It has nothing to do with a blood transfusion.
No.
I can't remember what the term is. I'm looking for it. No, and I wrote it down. Yeah.
It was one of the medical journal, and all how and the tester she was not
exactly. And yeah, it's a
test the womb. Then they realize that
it's a rare.
Yeah. It's a rare thing. So
it was one of the twin died. Yeah, and one DNA of the twin was in the child, and then she only have to prove it in her womb to identify that the child was hers. I cried. Oh my God.
Yeah. So there's a condition. So it's not 100%. When you see these things, it makes you think twice about things you hold to be true. So people.
It really does. It really does.
Yeah.
But John, the point that you were making about the tracking. Every sort of sexual crime is not equal. So I have a problem with let's say a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old guy who had, and I want to be very careful about maybe using the word consensual sex with a 14-year-old or a 15-year-old, all right? Even though if there's the thinking that 14 and 15-year-olds do not have the right to consent, but we know what happens in the real world. And then there's a breakup, which has happened a lot. And then she turns around and reports that encounter as a rape. He gets charged. He's now forced to register as a sexual offender for the rest of his life. How is that fair?
But isn't there something called statutory rape, though?
There is.
Yeah, of course there is statutory rape, but
Right.
16-year-olds and 17-year-olds have sex with 14-year-olds all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. The problem is that,
What they say that consent could be within under 5 years. Yes. So within the 14-year-old could have sex, consent to sex with somebody on 5 years and under 5 years. Any above, it could be charged for carnal knowledge, and stuff like that. But within that boundaries within the under 5, you can actually.
Because there was a kid in Ohio, a promising football player, had prospective scholarships from some leading universities in the Midwest to go and play football at that level, and had sex with a 14-year-old white girl. And then I think the weekend she saw him with another girl, and then she reported that encounter. And he ended up spending 10 years in jail.
Wow.
Until she
confessed
the truth came out, And but what was interesting is that then he had to fight to get off the registry.
Right. With somebody like that, I mean, so somebody lied about that they've been raped, and this person been 20 years, 50 years in prison. Shouldn't that person be charged now for the crime, for a crime?
But she was a minor.
Yeah, but now that she comes forward, can she be charged now for
life? Well, no, because when she committed the crime, or if you want to call it that, she was a minor. So it's not how old she is now; it's what was her age when she made that false report. Yeah.
There's a statute of limitations, right? It no longer exists for them.
And there's some issues with that too.
So there's no sunset laws. The crime is a crime. Mm-hmm. So she should be facing it.
Yeah, but in a sense, we can't keep for whatever reason. We listen. I did some dumb stuff when I was 14. I don't want to be held responsible for later on. So we can't.
Yeah, but don't become a millionaire. They'll come after you. I'm telling you. Hide in Canada. Just come in Canada. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, at 14, I was totally crazy, But I don't want to be held responsible for the dumb things I did at 14, But we can't go around prosecuting people. At 14, your mind is really not developed, as smart as we think we were then, or some of the kids think they are now. Your mind is really not.
But you may wanna address that. I mean, just my thinking here on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
Because some people are very mature at 14.
And predatory too.
Right. Yep. And I mean both emotionally, mentally, and everywhere else, maybe highly matured at 14, and others may not be, So, I mean, and this is just my thinking. I'm not saying that the law sees it that way or anything, I'm just thinking that sometimes one may want to, maybe one should have to consider the maturity level of the individual concerned as well, in addition to the age. That's just my thinking. I'm not saying that that's the...
No, it happens in real life, Margaret, because growing up, I remember a 13, 14-year-old young man in my village. I probably was about, 10 or 11 at the time. And he was the most mischievous person that I can think of. And we did not know it then, but he tortured people's dogs and cats and so forth. And I'm ashamed to admit it, but at the time we thought it was fun, where he would, drown them over a period of time. And that was a big thing, all right? And he was about that age, 13, 14. He was, you know, big for his age, so-called. And this guy came to the States, was very bright in school also. Came to the States to get into, I think he was accepted to one of the universities here, and turned out to be a hitman for the American mob. And a number of years ago was repatriated back home, if that's the word, I'm being kind, and ended up murdering somebody home.
Wow.
And in retrospect now, I didn't have the development to see what he turned out to be, but in retrospect, looking at it, he was destined to be that person at a very, 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 very tender age, you know, because the kind of things I remember him doing in the village was rather sadistic, you know. And living in the US here, and we remained friendly, and he would tell us stories that would just really blow your mind, you know. And I remember one of the last conversations I had with him, and I said, "Hey, man, how many people you think you have killed in your life, you know?" And he just looked at me. He had this funny voice that he spoke in, and he called me by my village name. He said, "Come on, Beaver. After you get to about 50 or 60, you just stop counting."
Wow.
Wow. Wow.
And this guy was one of the mob's top hitmen I mean, it's all public knowledge now. And he went home and did. The thing is that the murder he committed home was a murder he told us how he did it exactly here in the US. The only reason they probably found the body in Grenada is that he didn't have the fluids available to him to put the pieces in to have it dissolved. But this was something that he was very, very familiar with. And I remember when he was being deported, I was like very nervous for Grenada. I said, you know, he's going to go home and kill somebody. And within 3 years, he did.
Wow.
So where is he now? Is he still in Grenada?
He's still in Grenada. He's in prison. He has never been tried because even though if they know that he did it, the evidence is even the police. He has this mystique, right, in Grenada that even the police are scared and afraid of it. They took weeks to arrest this guy after this thing, and my understanding is that they brought in special assistance from Barbados, and I think Dominica squad of men to go up in Chantemelle and thing him, and he just, you know, calmly turned himself in. But
that was harassing Chantemelle?
Huh?
The same guy the last couple years was harassing people in Chantemelle, killing
No. This is somebody else. This guy is associated with a nightclub that he opened when he went back to Grenada, and he the landlord who he had rented the building from had determined that there was some illegal activities happening at the location and spoke to him about it, and he did the only thing that he know how to do. He killed him.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's one of the problems when you have these people that the United States just return to these small countries who do not have the law enforcement infrastructure to deal with them. Because I knew, and all of us who grew up with him and knew what he had involved himself in the U.S., so we knew that he was going to kill once he got back to Grenada. We knew that it was a given, that somebody was going to rub him the wrong way, somebody was going to piss him off, and that he would resort to the only way he knew how to solve problems.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. In that case, that happened about 6 years ago, and he's in prison, but he has never been tried.
Wow.
In a case like that, if we know something, couldn't we just call
Well, yeah, but the authorities have known he get deported. They have known because when they deported somebody, they get a file on them. Yes?
But listen, they didn't even just get a file on this guy. This guy was airlifted back to Grenada on a private plane, him and about a dozen U.S. Marshals. The joke was that they had him in one of those suits. You know, when you go swimming with the sharks, that metal that you wear, that's how he was transported back to Grenada. So
Wow.
the U.S. knew how dangerous he was, and the Grenada government was certainly aware. They would have told them.
Yes.
But because the government of Grenada had no jurisdiction over the crimes that he had committed in the U.S., he was free to live, and he was living comfortable in Grenada, running his nightclub, doing very well. People didn't think much of it. But the first sign of resistance that he got, he killed the owner. He killed the owner of the building, you know.
Wow. Wow.
And dumped the body behind his mother, dumped the pieces of the body behind his mother's house. So he wasn't, this guy was never been scared of anything in his life.
Wow.
You know?
It's true, yeah? Well, the time is now 10 minutes to the hour of 11. That's a good place for us to wrap up and go. Next week, Saturday night, I'll be having Ms. Tessa Barry here with us. We were talking about the agriculture in Grenada. Basically, she is maybe accompanied by other persons, but her topic here, the Russia-Ukraine conflict, should we be concerned? Dr. Tessa Barry, now is the time to act. And a couple of things she have here: we must revolutionize agriculture policy reform, regional trade, with energy, a number of things that she have here. We'll be looking at talking to her about next week, Saturday night, the 30th of April. Yes, I'm hoping to get a couple of other persons in that area, in that field, to be part of that conversation. And among other things, a continuing conversation from March 13th, agriculture, the future of in Grenada. That will be another discussion. But we'll be talking about the Russian-Ukraine conflict. Should we be concerned? And that'll be next week, Saturday night, 8 o'clock, right here again on Gemfm. And don't forget, guys, to join the text during the week, 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I miss Margaret.
And Margaret, you
yeah.
And
I missed you on the 2:30 show.
Talking with Tex.
I'm working. I'm at work then, Jeff.
Oh yeah.
Text. One of the texts I saw. I get the alert, and I was I don't remember one of the days I was in Grenada. I got the alert, and I had some downtime, and I wanted to join in the show, but immediately a friend of mine came and said, "Man, I know it's some good mango Julie's. Let's go." So I had to.
Okay, Delbert.
I guess I want to rub it in a little, because the mango season is not fully in Grenada yet. You know, it comes in big time in May. So Tex having some nice ripe mango Julie's stole me over.
Thing that me and you have, I will cancel that dress. I will not be buying that dress. I will not even come.
Over a Julie mango?
Over a Julie mango.
Exactly, Tex. He can't be sitting down and be boasting about Julie mangoes, and meanwhile we sit down up here with our mouth dry.
What I think so.
Yeah, I had all the mango and sugar cane that I could you know, I was afraid that, you know, I was grateful that I was not diabetic, because I just
No, Pastor Daphne, you know what I could really do it? Some balata.
Ooh.
Wow.
You know balata?
Balata, I don't know what is this.
Yes.
Pastor Daphne in Canada for too long.
So she know that? God.
And Pastor Daphne, you're muted.
Yeah, she is. She's muted.
You're muted.
But what is balata, Margaret?
Balata is
It's
a
a
fruit.
it's a wrong orange. It's wrong an orange skin thing, right?
No, you're talking about Piwa? I'm a Piwa person.
No, not pure, not pure. I'm
Oh
talking
yeah,
about
balata. Yeah. And
yeah.
it's sweet.
It's from a high coconut tree, right?
Piwa comes from the high coconut tree. Balata is a smaller one on a regular tree, and it's sweet.
Hmm.
Mhm.
You know what, Margaret? I have to get my roots back together and get all those fruits. I left
Exactly.
Trinidad when I was 13. So I need to be
Yeah, Piwa is
reassimilated.
the one. Yeah, Piwa is the orange color one that comes from the tree that looks as a coconut tree, and
That you boil.
That you boil, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
I
like
never
the
liked
pure
Piwa.
and I like the
never liked Piwa.
châtaigne. I like
Ew,
châtaigne
I don't
as
like
well.
that either. Ew. Châtaigne is bread, not there.
And I like pomerac. I like the
Oh
pomerac.
yes, yeah. Now we're talking
But
pomerac.
I don't like the one that has the prickles in it. You know that one?
Pomsite? Because going up.
Pomsite. Oh, I
Oh,
can't
no,
take that. The
pomsite is
first
the
time I
best.
ate it.
Going up.
No, listen to me. I didn't understand it well when I went home. So it pricked all my gums.
Oh, here jokes. So when I was in Grenada and going to school, right? When I was in high school, and you hear pomsite in season, well, golden apple in Grenada, right? You get the green ones, and somebody bringing a bag, and we were sitting like in the back of the form in high school, right? And all you're hearing on the floor is whap.
Yeah. I remember that. Yes, I remember that.
Wrong piece. Ain't nothing
And
to
you-
see, right? And
and-
everybody just breaking off a piece and pass it around.
Because a good smack, it cracks up nice and everybody get a
Yes,
piece.
yes.
You know, she love Google as well. Google was this prickly tree, but you had this.
Yeah. Guru. Yeah.
Oh, my late wife some of this until she gets sick.
Yeah.
This stuff. She got chewing up. She just loved the ripe ones. Just loved the ripe Google. And she just had a feel there that one day. She had too much. She overate this stuff. Sucked this whole set of stuff and just Google. Oh my god.
Yeah.
And your lips get so bruised.
But it's okay. It's okay, Minister Tex and Brother John. My auntie is sending me up some red mango soon. It's actually in Toronto now. It has arrived.
Well, here's the thing. I'm getting some chili baby tomorrow. Chili baby.
Oh no, I love chili baby. Listen, the first time I had it in Trinidad after growing up, it was great.
Very ungrateful.
What's that, Tex?
You guys are very ungrateful people. That's all I'm saying. You guys are ungrateful.
What did I do?
You have to.
Everybody was my friend. Oh.
This is a great time for fruits and.
And but Minister Tex, you have to be upset with Delbert because guess what? He ate all the mango and he's coming to Canada. Can you imagine that? We'll meet him at the airport. Are you driving or are you flying? We'll meet you at the airport or
in my defense, Grenadian mangoes are not welcome in the United States for whatever reason.
Good.
So that's my excuse.
No,
but,
they used to be until you had an infestation of some fruit fly on one part of the island. And you see, and this is the thing that people don't get. There's a reason why you don't want to transport fruits and stuff across borders.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that Grenada enjoyed is that they did not have a fruit fly, unlike Trinidad, which had the fruit fly, and that's the reason why you have worms and everything.
Yeah.
You had it good, but you see, people just don't get it. There's a reason why you don't do certain things.
I think it was rumored that fruit fly infestation in Grenada came all the way from Taiwan.
Correct. The same thing that happened with the mealybug.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And there you go. The people don't get it. That's the reason why.
Well, time is now 3 minutes to 11 o'clock. So just give a wrapping up. Go to Margaret closing up. What your final word on sexual harassment in the workplace?
Well, as I said before, anytime somebody encounters that, it is not acceptable. And I would tell every single victim that you make it quite clear to whoever the perpetrator is that this is unwelcome behavior and it's unwanted and they should cease it immediately. And if the person chooses not to do so, make sure that you report that immediately and you take it as far as you can go. If your immediate supervisor does not take you seriously, you take the next step up. You go up the chain, and if it means taking it outside, finding yourself a lawyer, or whoever, you do whatever you have to do, but it is totally unacceptable.
Yeah.
Text, harassment.
I was very happy with the way Margaret bring it around and make it equal on the board for everybody, because in the start it seems as though it was the woman's right and the man is wrong. So I give God thanks to what she bring it about, and I'm very happy. And now we're gonna have equal gender having the same right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's more, as I said, it's more frequent, or the more reports we hear, it happens with women. But the reality is that it does happen to men.
Yeah.
And like everything else, people can also set you up as Delmot, as happened with Delmot. That's why you just have to be so careful. And my thing is, when in doubt, just err on the side of caution.
All right. What? No, next.
Well, yeah, for me, I unless us as men sort of take responsibility for our actions and probably begin to look at for female colleagues at work in the same light that we look at our moms and sisters and daughters, the problem will persist. If you look at what happened 30 years ago with the Clarence Thomas nomination, and then 30 years after the fact with the Me Too movement, it really forces you to ask the question, how much, what level of progress have we made? Because to a certain extent, it seems that it got worse, and that many people became more skillfully at hiding it, and that because the power imbalance continued to explode, that women felt more and more intimidated to report. And again, for me, after my own incident, I took an approach like, to hell with it, I really don't care, because I knew that, what I had done and what I had not done. And having been falsely accused, I really didn't care about anybody else's feelings. And that didn't change until I started to see my daughter grow up and started to, now begin to see things through her eyes and the kind of world that she was going to inherit. So I was forced to revisit that sort of part of my life and take a new outlook, and I'm grateful for that. And I've had conversations with her about it. And the interesting thing about it is that she's part of a generation that they feel they can handle anything. I wish I had that courage and that chutzpah at that age. She's like, Dad, this is not going to happen to me, and if this happens to me, here is what I'm going to do. And she's absolutely so positive and so sure about herself. And I don't know that to be the case, but for her sake and for all the women in the workplace, not just in the United States, but especially in developing countries that do not have the legal infrastructure in place to give them recourse, I'm hoping that that more of us men can join in that battle to make the workplace a more even and comfortable place for our female companions. Because I don't want my wife or significant other to be harassed at work, or my daughter or anybody else, But it happens,
Right. All right, Pastor Daphne, closing remarks.
Well, one of the things that has to be done, and we have to, as a community, has to also get involved in it. Training, training and awareness is very important, so that we can pinpoint on all the areas and put in place the deterrents for and methods of, to be adopted for those type of things. We also have to address things like what Brother Delbert has been through, false accusal, and change around the game. Because once you know these things, and I think it should be part of, as soon as you enter a company, this has to be part of what takes place. Before you even sit at the desk, you got to have that training as men and women, and so that they can both gain that level of respect for each other. And if anything's coming out of it, at least you have to let them know that this is their workplace and it cannot operate here, so it's a deterrent in a form. But if people are persistent, they will do it, post the work hours, and that has nothing to do with the company at that time. But still, it has to be told that it is not right. It shouldn't be done. Think about your sisters, your nieces, and your cousins. Think about your mother. Yeah. What if she had to have gone through things like that? So we have to go and really bring it home, so that they will understand what it's all about. That's my take.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Margaret, again for taking the time off.
Thank you. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Tex Warren, again, the usual suspects. We always hear. And yeah, I'm not having enough women on my panel. It's always men, like a post office, So now we have a mixed bag, everybody. I always try to get the women to come on here now, because I want to have a balanced panel of both men and women. And I'm hoping probably get some young people, some of them to mix with us too, so to have their point of view on certain subjects matter that we discuss here on Gemfm. So again, I want to thank each and every one of you. And again, ladies and gentlemen, those of you out there who are engaged in the sexual harassment and the job, nobody goes much into depth about the greater situation with the police, but we'll probably get into that next time. This is more of us read the information, we'll be able to better discuss it. I hope next time Margaret and Delbert will probably read the article. I know the reason to go further in it because I read it and wanted to have more information on it. And going forward, what I'll try to do is to send out information about whatever subject we want to talk about, so people can read up on it, so you have a better working knowledge, understand what we're going to discuss as well, if you haven't had the experience about anything. So we'll be able to, if you have anything to send to us, we'll share it around, like Sister Pastor Daphne has done tonight. Send information to us, so we could probably study it ourselves, so we could have a more intelligent conversation on the matter. So, with that being said, I appreciate much and much love to each and every one of you and Margaret. I don't know if you like a picture I put up on the thing. I stole a picture of your crap.
That's fine. It works.
A picture that they want me to use, I could use it, but I just have to that's what I got, so let's use that one. So
yeah, it works.
Again, thank you guys so much, and I really appreciate it. Again, keep sharing Gemfm to your family and friends during the week. Just send the link and let them go and listen listen to Gemfm, right? Because we're on 24 hours, we're just never sleep. 24 hours of radio programming. And we're now into a new in Toronto here. We have a Black community, or we want to be Black business in Toronto, to be part of the to be signed up on the website and the Facebook page to be and you can't just put a poster up. I just put a poster up. You have to write something about the business and say that you're Black owned and Black operated in Toronto. So again, we are there now, and I'm getting other feedback from that as well. So looking forward to bigger and better things going forward. So please help us to spread the joy of Gemfm and Gemfm Media. Again, thank you guys so much. And I have my closing song that I choose tonight. Probably many of you haven't heard it before, but I think Tex will be loving that one. Man Merchant. I'm coming to remember this one.
Ralph was always going and roam, leaving the woman home. When she take until she couldn't take no more. Last night he going out, she running from the door, shouting, I coming too, I coming too. You ain't leaving me here tonight. If we have to fight, I coming too, I coming too. Look, all the neighbors think I'm a mouse, but I in the house. I coming too, I coming too. From the bedroom to the bathroom, the kitchen to the dining room. Well, Mr. Sweetman, let me tell you something, sir. From now on, I want more space than that. I coming too, I coming too. You ain't leaving me here tonight. If we have to fight, I coming too, I coming too. Man, you could go in OCO, I don't want to know. I coming too, I coming too. If you don't want me to come with you, then what you keeping me here to do? You will even take me to see Panorama, and I wanted to go and hear Lord Kitchen. I coming too, I coming too. Look, you always have me on hold and treating me cold. I coming too, I coming too. Man, you could go in OCO, I don't want to know. I coming too, I coming too. Now all the neighbors siding with she. The woman right, everyone agree. They tell she, Madam, anytime it reach the court, don't afraid at all, you're getting full support. Cause we coming too, we coming too. Just tell the magistrate he's a Paris. We go all of here. We coming too, we coming too.
Yes, we coming too. Don't tell the magistrate he's a pest.
I want to show us what one can do. I want to show us what one can do. I'm coming too. I'm coming too. I want to show us what one can do. I want to show us what one can do. I'm coming too. I'm coming too. I want to show us what one can do.
merchant are coming too. Yes, and we can't leave the woman home anymore. We gotta take them with us. Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, have a pleasant good night again. Tex. See you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow afternoon, there is a church.
Right.
We're here at 5 o'clock for service tomorrow evening. Tomorrow morning, Pastor Michel's service, and 11 o'clock, my church service at 11 o'clock tomorrow. All the best, and enjoy the rest of the music for tonight on Gemfm. You could go sleep tonight with it, and at 1 o'clock, because the hour begins at 1. So up until from now until 1 o'clock is mixed reggae music, so have some fun. Don't go to sleep, take a cup of coke and just sit down and relax, you know what I mean? And listen to Gemfm.
Thank you, Brother John.
Pastor Daphne again.
All right.
Good night.
Night, guys.
Good night, Margaret.
Good night, everyone. Good night. Good night. Yeah.
Good night, Brother John. Good night, Delbert. Good night, Minister Tex.
Night, night.
Good night.
John, well, what are you having at 5, you said?
Tomorrow evening, 5 o'clock, Pastor Shroma and Sister Reverend Sharon Alexander, 5 o'clock tomorrow evening.
Yes, I'm just coming in or coming in a bit later than that.
If you open Bible church will be tomorrow evening at 5 o'clock. And then the Spanish class, the Spanish session, Spanish class at 8 o'clock. That's 7:30, somewhere there. I'll send you the info tonight about the Spanish class tomorrow evening again, folks. We have a Spanish class tomorrow afternoon from 7:30, I think. I'll post up anyways tonight or tomorrow in the morning. Yes? So don't do Espanol. All right. Okay. www.gemfm.ca, www.gemfm.ca. Check us out 24 hours. Don't miss it. All right. This one called Norman.
Wearing a tight band and a handbag in his hand. I'm saying no, this ain't true. And he's wearing makeup too. Norman.